You're pretty important. We're waiting on you. Okay, let's call the meeting to order and have a resolution to adopt the agenda. Mallory?
Be it resolved that the agenda for the special meeting of council of the municipality of Dysart held on December 13th, 2024 be approved as presented.
Mover and seconder? Nancy and Barry, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Being none?
I do, Murray. Sorry.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, what number is it?
2024-011 and 2024-004. My company has been hired to install septic system if it happens, so.
Okay. Okay. Resolution to adopt the minutes then?
Be it resolved that council approves the following meeting minutes as circulated: regular meeting of council December 10th and public meeting December 10th.
Okay, mover and seconder. Walt and Carm, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay. Okay. Resolution then, is Rob going to join us then for?
Yeah, he's coming on the screen right now.
Morning, Rob.
Good morning, Mayor.
So.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
So this is a bylaw to assume that portion. So you have the paperwork now?
Yeah, so this bylaw will close the loop on this file. So back in August, council committed to assuming the road if it was brought up to standard. Since then, there was some upgrades done and confirmation from a land surveyor and a professional engineer that it meets standards.
Okay, so we're good to go then.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, Mallory, resolution then, please.
Be it resolved that bylaw 2024-111 being a bylaw to assume a portion of Trappers Trail Road for year-round maintenance from the easterly limit of lot 32 to lot 49 within plan 636 be read a first, second, and third time passed, signed, and the corporate seal attached thereto.
Mover and seconder. Nancy and Barry, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, next. Jeff. Then you're going to go for a walk?
Yeah.
Don't go too far.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff.
You can hear me okay?
We can. Okay, do you want to give us a brief overview of this then?
Yeah, I'll jump right into it. So this is a returning file related to a request from Dalkey and Lawrence on Cardiff Lake Road. At the meeting in November, council deferred this application for the purpose of a site visit. My understanding is that site inspection has now occurred. In hopes of answering some of council's questions from the November meeting, additional comments have been provided in the report from the Director of Public Works and the Chief Building Official. In addition to those comments provided in the report today, various comments were also provided in the November staff report. These comments and concerns provided by various departments are based on municipal policy with the intent of protecting the municipality's interests as well as the taxpayers. Subject to any questions from council, staff continue to recommend the first resolution provided in the report, which is to deny the sale of both road allowances, but to permit the processing of a license of occupation application. The license of occupation application itself would recognize the location of the existing cottages and permit the applicant to submit an application for a short-term rental license, which I believe is the overall intent of this process. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, and how about the septic system? How's that being resolved?
So there is a current septic system hooked up to these dwellings. It is partially or entirely located on the neighbor's property. So the comments provided by the Chief Building Official note that this system is now under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Environment as opposed to the municipality. But my understanding is it's permitted to stay there right now. Any future development that would require a septic permit, they would have to go to the MOE.
So I get this straight. We're approving a short-term or a license of occupation for 2 cottages. They're on a septic system on somebody else's lot and allowing that to go on to be a cottage rental. Am I understanding that?
That is the request before council today. As per the report, staff have outlined various concerns relating to the size of this lot and the overdevelopment of this parcel and just the impacts on adjacent uses. There's encroachments on our property, encroachments on the neighbor's property. But that is the request before you today.
In my world, the solution would be to fix the tile bed and then hook onto it. That's the way it should be done. Nancy?
I just have a couple questions, Jeff. I've gone through this file about 100 times. Both buildings are actually on the Shore Road allowance, is that
Yes.
correct? That's our property that the buildings are on.
Both
Yeah.
dwellings, that's correct. Excuse me.
So we can't legalize an encroachment. The only way around that is to do the license of occupation. And we can't close the Shore Road allowance because once we do that, those buildings would be grandfathered, correct?
That is correct. So it's not necessarily grandfathered, but there's policies within the official plan that would recognize that future development of those buildings would act as if they are grandfathered.
So that's a very slippery slope and opening up a can of worms as well. After looking through it a million times, part 3 and part 4 are one lot, correct? And it's our property, correct?
Correct. Part 3 and part 4 are the Shore Road allowance in front of parts 1 and 2.
Would it be reasonable to remove one of the dwellings and move the septic into that green square on part 4? And then after all those obligations are met, then do the Shore Road allowance closing?
Well, I would think we should obtain comments from the applicant if there's anything with regards to removing the building. In terms of the septic system in that green location on part 4, that location does not appear to comply with the building code or the zoning bylaws, so they would be required to do various approvals and potentially studies to permit something to be located in that area. But yeah, I'm here seeking council direction today. This is a difficult and complex file. There's really no location on the subject lands that complies with both the street setback and the water setback at the same time. So any development in the future is going to require Planning Act approval.
Would this be worth getting a legal opinion then, so that we don't do something that contradicts our official plan? Or zoning bylaw amendments? To find out exactly what their options are instead of going back and forth with a million different thoughts.
Well, it's up to council, but comments have been provided in terms of compliance with the official plan and zoning bylaw, and the chief building official and director of public works have provided comments in terms of their policy. The development, there's a minimum of 14 zoning compliance issues already existing on the subject lands that would need to be cleaned up. Like all these factors to me indicate that this lot, if we were to sell this Shore Road allowance, it's not sufficient size to properly be developed with impacts on adjacent uses. So the solution being recommended today is to a license of occupation. That would not necessarily legalize that as a lot, but it would allow the applicant to keep those dwellings there for the time being, until they have run their course.
Well, I'm going to comment. I don't think this is a proper use of license of occupation. I think this is stretching something that is going to come back and bite us, but could be wrong. Walt, you have something?
It's just gonna complicate this question here, things even more, Jeff. What about if, technically she needs, 2 new septic systems, right? No?
Not necessarily. So my understanding is that they can continue to use the existing septic system, but any future development that would increase say a bedroom or a private cabin or an addition to the dwelling would require a septic review and then they would be required to do something.
What would happen if she wanted to put in two holding tanks?
That's what should do. That's what you should do.
And that is, so if you look at the first resolution, that is mentioned. So they can continue to use that existing one for the time being, but if they did want to move their system onto their property, the chief building official has advised that holding tanks are an option for this property.
That's what you do.
So, sorry, like, so if if she buys the shore and the road, I know, I'm just saying if she did, that's a lot of money, and putting in septic systems a lot more money, and holding tanks less money. I don't know, like somehow we want to make this work for the property owner, of course, but we also have issues with there's issues. We all know about a number of issues, so I was just curious about the holding tanks. Thank you.
Well, I know you're not speaking because you're not on the agenda to speak, but do you have a problem with putting holding tanks in?
How large they have to be, but
Oh, there'll be 1,000 gallon, yeah.
I would have to pump them out, of course, regularly, so it's going to be around the same amount. My calculation based upon not real knowledge, but my guesstimate is if I'm looking at about $15,000 to $18,000 per year for pump out.
No, I wouldn't say, and not unless you've got an awful lot of people in those little cottages using the rental.
Well,
Well, we had one at our house and we pumped it 3 times a year and there was 3 people living in the house all the time.
I have 2 people per bedroom, so one cottage is 3 bedrooms, the other is 2. So I have in total 10 people.
Right. So you'd have 3 times as much, so you'd have to pump it maybe 10 times.
I think that would be sufficient.
I'm just going by what I know.
Okay.
And I'm not sure today that applies, because it depends whether you're washing clothes there or using a whole lot of water. No, so it's just the washroom, right? And the sink.
Kitchen sink and dishwasher in each cottage.
Yeah, okay. Dishwasher uses a bit, but not that much. Okay, so that is a solution or a possible one. Okay, any other comments? Okay, so this is, Mallory, I guess the resolution is, then?
To approve a license of occupation. This is just a way to allow the applicant to go forward with the short-term rental for now, recognizing that this property obviously has a lot of compliance issues. And then there's a number of conditions outlined. I can read it if council would like.
Well, I guess you better, because I'm gonna ask for a recorded vote on this. This is a precedent that, this very dangerous to.
Okay, so I'll start reading it. It's a long one. So, be it resolved that council denies file L07-RO-2024-11, an application by Dalkey and Lawrence to purchase part of the shore road allowance and part of the road allowance for Cardiff Lake Road in front of their property in part lot 11, concession 1, in the geographic township of Harcourt. And further, that council approve for processing file number L07-LO-2024-004, an application for a license of occupation with Dalkey and Lawrence for use of the shore road allowance in front of part lot 11 in the geographic township of Harcourt, to recognize the location of the existing dwellings and accessory structures subject to the following conditions. 1. The zoning compliance issues shall be removed or brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw. 2. The encroachment issues shall be removed or brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw. 3. The applicant must make application for necessary building permits. 4. The applicant, if necessary, must obtain the necessary septic permits for the holding tanks and decommission the existing septic system. 5. The applicant shall apply for the necessary entrance permits. And 6. Pursuant to section 5.1.2 of the official plan, the shoreline setback shall be restored to a natural state.
Yeah.
So, like, I understand, you know, she really wants to get the snowmobile season in, correct? So that's what, is that 10 weeks or 12 weeks? 10 weeks or 12 weeks?
Yes.
So I'm not, I don't like the idea, Murray, but I want to be, you know, try to be amicable and get along here. Like, it's 12 weeks with the, you know, if we gave her the license of occupation.
Just for 12 weeks, you're gonna give it to her.
Yeah. Like, and as soon as this snowmobile season's over, she's got to correct all these issues,
Yeah, you just gotta put the holding tanks in.
you know, like.
Yeah, she understands that, but I can't see having it just for 12 weeks, like she knows.
So
what
she's gonna run it all summer long with, like, and she's doing nothing? No, I don't agree with that at all.
No,
As
she-
soon as the robins are here and the snow is gone, she's got to address all these issues.
Oh, she will have most of them addressed before that. Because as I understand it, if we issue the license of occupation today, then she is with the bylaw. And when they come out and do the inspection. So she will have most of those done by then.
So, sorry, today's just to approve for processing the
Right.
application, just to be
Yes.
clear, it's not being issued today. So if council wants to, sorry, Jeff, you go ahead.
No, I just wanted to point out that the staff's recommendation is that the conditions are satisfied prior to the
Yeah.
issuance of the license of occupation or prior to it being executed.
Which is the right way to do it.
Right.
Okay, so.
Okay, so we're voting then on staff's recommendations, or we're voting against? Right?
Do you want to do a recorded vote?
Yes, I do.
So if you agree
Important.
with the resolution, then please say yes. Counselor Boyce,
First one.
So
To
the
deny.
resolution again is recommending.
here,
staff-
sorry.
Yeah,
Can you guys hear me right now? I think I'm cutting in and out.
do you want to hear it
Okay.
again? Okay, read it again.
You want me to read the whole thing again?
I'd hate to put you through that, but I guess.
No, that's okay. I'm fine with it. I'm just making sure I'm listening properly. Okay. So, be it resolved that council denies file number L07-R0-2024-11, an application by Dalkey and Lawrence to purchase part of the Shore Road allowance and part of the road allowance for Cardiff Lake Road in front of their property in Part Lot 11, Concession 1, in the geographic township of Harcourt. And further that council approve for processing file number L07-LO-2024-004, an application for a license of occupation with Dalkey and Lawrence for the use of the Shore Road allowance in front of Part Lot 11 in the geographic township of Harcourt, to recognize the location of the existing dwellings and accessory structures, subject to the following conditions. 1. The zoning compliance issues shall be removed or brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw. 2. The encroachment issues shall be removed or moved into compliance with the zoning bylaw. 3. The applicant must make application for the necessary building permits. 4. The applicant, if necessary, must obtain the necessary septic permits for the holding tanks and decommissioning of the existing septic system. 5. The applicant shall apply for the necessary entrance permits. And 6. Pursuant to section 5.1.2 of the official plan, the shoreline setback shall be restored to a natural state.
Okay. You've heard it. Okay,
I'm going to start calling out names for the recorded vote, if that works.
Yep.
Councillor Donaldson,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McKechnie,
So if I just clear this up.
you're on.
sorry, Walt, I don't know if your mic's on. Is it?
If I say yes, I'm agreeing with staff?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, yes.
Okay, Councillor Sawyer,
Yes.
Councillor Wood Roberts,
No.
and Mayor Ferry.
Yes.
Okay, so that passes.
Okay. So we shall move on.
Is do I need to get Barry or is someone else?
No, I don't. Yeah, we should bring Barry back, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Lori, I guess you're next. And Lori has there's a written copy there in front of you. Not a good time of the year to be wandering around with a crutch, with a crutch. Okay, do you want to give us just a brief overview? I think it's pretty clear what you're asking for, but let's go for it.
I guess I'll introduce Pat Moffett.
Okay,
You all know me. I'm Lori Jones. Pat's our newly elected president of the board of directors, and she and I have come here today to introduce a little bit more and give you a case for support for our request. So Pat, over to you, and we've recorded it. It won't take too long.
Thanks. Yeah, I just have a little more background I want to take you through. So thanks for the opportunity to present. Sorry, I touched. As you know, the gallery is the only not-for-profit gallery in Dysart that serves the public by providing opportunities for the exploration, appreciation, expression, and exchange of the creative arts. Our priorities include programming of cultural activities, providing an authentic tourist experience, bringing together a motivated team of staff and volunteers, and taking good care of our facilities and the environment. We have been responsible stewards for the Rails End Gallery and Arts Center, and we have operated within our annual operating budget by reducing staff hours and by staff taking on duties that were previously outsourced. This has kept the gallery functioning, but at a significant cost to our ideal service level. As you can see from our 2025 funding request, we have two requests. Firstly, we are asking for our funding to be increased to $75,000, plus a consumer price index increase for subsequent years. We feel that this is a reasonable request as our funding has remained flat for at least 18 years. We arrived at the $75,000 request by applying the consumer price index over these 18 years. Among other things, the increased funding will help us to ensure that we avoid future operating deficits. As well, this increased funding would allow us to complete the following projects: update lighting to LED in the gallery and replace the dimmer panel, add additional lighting in the gallery to be better suited to a multi-purpose space, install interior security cameras for better staff security, allow for reserve funds to be built up to cover future replacement of the aging infrastructure, for example, the furnace and the elevator or lift. Preservation and repair of the original flooring in the gallery space for safety and cleanliness. Seasonal staffing augmentation to allow us to be open longer in the busy summer months. And repair the accessible entrance equipment and door frame damaged by ice buildup and wind. Over the years, we have also taken many actions to save money. This includes a 20% reduction of daily hours of operation, shortening the summer season from May, September to July, August, reduced to a 5-day work week during the summer season and a 4-day work week for other months, and closing in January. Reducing outsourced services for the gallery, for example, garbage pickup and cleaning service. Reducing outsourced services at the annual Art and Craft Festival, for example, cleaning toilets, removing garbage, and the bin rental. And unfortunately, we have made scheduling changes to leave one staff member on their own frequently. This was a difficult decision as we want to provide a safe work environment for our staff. In addition, we have taken action to increase the earning potential of the gallery. This includes adding program-related income streams, for example, Art Heaven, which is the sale of previously owned art that was donated to the gallery. the Art Squared, which is selling 12 by 12 original art that was donated by local artists, and the Halliburton on Plein Air competition, which is new in 2024. We have also increased the fee for artists at our annual Art and Craft Festival and increased the scope of responsibility of volunteers to help manage the Art and Craft Festival. And finally, we have managed and secured funding for many projects over the years to improve and maintain the historical gallery building. In summary, we have secured over $175,000 of funding for improvement projects from various agencies, including the Ontario Trillium Foundation, Halliburton County Development Corporation, Halliburton Rotary, Eastern Ontario Development Program, and Provincial Accessibility Grant. And the Rails End Gallery has additionally paid another $37,000 for just over a total of $213,000 that has been invested in maintaining and upgrading the building. There is still more to do, and we hope that our work can continue. Our second request is for $4,407 to cover the cost of a property condition assessment. We have a quote from Cambian Inc., an engineering firm with an office in Peterborough, to conduct a property condition assessment. We feel that this is a crucial step to identify deficiencies and to build a plan to maintain the historic building for the long term. This report will also allow for projects to be properly prioritized. Again, we thank you for your time and consideration of our request to increase funding to $75,000 starting in 2025, plus an annual CPI increase, and to approve funding to cover a property condition assessment.
Mary, are you speaking? Is anyone speaking? Because I don't hear anyone.
We have worked quite diligently to prepare this, and there is also a costing list which we should file with you, I think, with the council, so that you can see the various projects that we've undertaken over the years. And I think together we can really make this into make it work. So hopefully you all agree. Give it your consideration. Thank you. Yeah. I'll turn.
Go ahead. Erin.
Okay, so I'm Erin Lynch, and I'm the chair of the Cultural Resources Committee, and I'm here just to ask council support for our budget. And actually, I'm not actually asking council for any additional funds. And if you look at the budget, it's the things that we're asking for. We can do with carryover from 2023 and 2024. So there's actually no net impact on the municipal levy for 2025. It will be zero. So the things that are here that we have, so which we've had before, which is our public art project. So in 2024 was what we worked on was with the Eagle Lake Women's Society and the residents of Eagle Lake to create the historical panels on the Eagle Lake Beach, which I think was a great project. And we were actually, I think, able to take help with some of the pressure that some of the residents were giving even to council and to the municipality to do some things. And I think that the Cultural Resource Committee was able to enact that. And so for 2025, one of the things that we've been looking at is undertaking a public art project where we would work with local artists or some other community groups to do a wrap. So there's like an image here on the sheet that I've provided too. So for sewage line pump stations that are just to beautify them, that are within Dysart too. So that's sort of what we're looking at for 2025. This is something that does happen in a number of different communities. And then the other thing is talking about the updated cultural plan. So the Cultural Resource Committee recognizes the importance of an updated cultural plan. So many funders for municipal initiatives want to see a current updated plan for eligibility. And currently Dysart's 10-year cultural plan was created 12 years ago and needs to be updated to reflect current times and prepare our community for the future. And much has changed and much has been accomplished over the last past 12 years, which I know we've presented to council before. We actually lowered what we would have in terms of updating that cultural plan. So originally we had that at 10,000. The committee lowered that to $7,500. Again, not looking to hire a out-of-town consultant. We just want a local coordinator to be able to do community consultation and compile information. We are a volunteer committee. It is a lot of work, and we do want to have an updated cultural plan.
And you believe there's people in the community that are capable of that, eh?
Yes, for sure.
And you've identified some of them then?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, we would advertise it and to do that.
Would seem to me that you've got the strength on your committee to do that, but I mean, it's a lot of work. I understand that.
Yeah, and we have actually already put in a number of work. We've had meetings to identify things, but it's still to we need to have community consultation. We need to actually to put that into an updated document as well. And then to, as I said, for potential funders, we say that we have an updated cultural plan.
Any questions for her? I think we understand that. That's good.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And no, Jim? Well, I think we have his report anyway, so we'll consider that during the budget review. Okay, Barb, I guess we're down to you.
Okay, good morning. I'll just wait for the presentation to start. Okay.
You can stay, leave, or reassure.
Okay. You gone? Are you dead already? Okay.
Okay, so I think we're ready now. Well, good morning, Mayor Ferry and members of council. We're here today to present the first draft of the 2025 budget. There's been a lot of work gone into this document here in this plan. I'd like to thank the senior management team for participating in this project. We've been looking at this since October. So there's been a lot of number crunching, and I'm happy to present the first draft today.
Okay.
So next slide, please. So as far as the presentation goes, I'll provide the opening comments, and an overview, and then we'll have the senior management team present their budgets for their specific area. So some of the things we're going to copy or cover today is looking at our sources of funding. We'll look at our reserves and reserve funds. We'll look at our municipal debt, and we'll look at our operational and our capital expenses. So before we dive into that, just a little bit of an overview for 2024. I'm pleased to say that I do anticipate a surplus. We've had some exceptional property taxation come in this year, turning those building permits into revenues. We're looking at about an additional $227,000. We've done well with interest income on our bank accounts, an additional $74,000 as well. And there's a potential surplus in some of the maintenance activities under the transportation budget, looking at the winter maintenance, sanding and salting. So obviously with the winter event happening right now, that gap may close, but I'm still confident that there will be a surplus. So with that surplus, the recommendation would be, rather than to channel all those funds into working funds, looking at our capital expenditures, I'm recommending that we put that money into the capital reserve for roads reconstruction and our general vehicle and equipment reserve. With the price of a tandem truck today, we definitely can use the extra money to support those purchases. So looking at revenues, next slide, please. We'll start off with municipal taxation. So we're looking at generating a total municipal tax levy of just over $12.7 million. And that represents a levy increase of 3.92%. The assessment growth was $251,000 or 2.1%. And the current value still remains at the 2016 valuations. I know the province is looking at the assessment model, so we're still parked at 2016 current value assessment. So, and in general, a 1% levy increase will generate $119,000 in municipal taxation revenue. So how does that impact our different tax classes? The primary one is the residential property tax, and $100,000 will see an additional $13.20. So if there is a property valued at $350,000, then they will pay $1,224 in taxation revenue in 2025. So here we have an overview of our three main sources of funding. We just spoke about our property taxation, and another source is our federal and our provincial grants. And we also have other non-tax revenues. And under that category, we have our user fees, we have our transfers from reserve funds, we have debt funding, we have interest income, we have penalty and interest income, and we have donations. So starting off with federal grants, we have here our two, well, one of them anyway, the Canada Community Build Fund. That is the fund we get annually from the federal government, and that there is used to fund capital projects in construction, roads construction. This year, we're going to get $235,211. And there's one other grant that we're still working through, the Active Transportation Fund, and that's for a plan for active transportation within Haliburton Village. This project started in 2023. The original grant amount was $50,000, and we intend to close that project up in 2025 for another, the balance of $27,145. Next slide, please. Looking at provincial grants, it is a little bit more busier. We do have our Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund for $247,000, and that will be used for roads construction as well. We have our Safe Restart Fund, and we're going to be drawing $197,000 on that fund. And that there has been earmarked for operational efficiencies through the purchase of the maintenance manager software and our asset management software. We also have a proposed grant here from the Ministry of the Solicitor General, and this is to do with the purchase of fire equipment for $18,900. And then we have another grant here. We're looking to make an application with, I believe, actually, we have made the application with the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund, and that's $237,000, and we're looking to use that to fund the replacement of the steel footbridge in Head Lake Park. And then we have the Ontario Trillium Fund. That there is $30,000 for the cycle out at the caboose here at Head Lake Park.
What was that one for?
It's for the cycle hub at the caboose in Head Lake Park. Through Fort, yes, yeah. So all those granting authorities there are used for infrastructure development. And now looking at municipal services, we do have our regular OMPF funding. Glad to say that it's been increased by $200,000 in 2025. And that is based on the rural calculation of that grant. And then we're looking at police services. We've heard that the province is providing some relief for the substantial increase in the policing costs this year. Based on the metrics that we've been provided, we're looking at about $365,000 to mitigate those costs. And that, I understand, is a one-time grant. We're pulling in 100% of that grant into the budget this year. So, yeah, absolutely. And then finally, our CMOG grant for the museum, that's an operating grant for $16,224. Next slide, please. So when we look at other revenue, we have here user fees of just over 3.9 million, and that there is the key players there is the wastewater treatment plant. We're looking at about 1.4 million for user fees. Then we have our building fees. We have $770,000 there. And then we have $800,000 at our landfills. That's tipping fees, scrap metal fees. We have our recreation, mainly ice rentals for $265,000. So there's a lot of user fees out there that comprise that 3.9 million. Then we have rental income. This is rent from our medical center, rent at some of our other buildings that we have tenants for $154,000. We're looking at a donation this year from the Volunteer Firefighter Social Club for a purchase of a rescue boat, 50% contribution to that purchase. Interest income of $190,000, and that's interest income on our operating bank account throughout the year. So we were very fortunate to capitalize on a decent rate there. Penalty and interest, this is the interest we charge on past due property taxation of $220,000. And we have our draw from the reserves of $1.8 million to fund capital projects. And then we have our debt. This is a big number this year, $4.3 million. And that's going to be funding 2 bridges and a sand dome for storage of sand at our public works garage. So we're just going to touch on reserves now, and there's different categories of reserves. This category here is municipal reserves, and these are funds that are set aside by the municipality to cover unexpected expenses or to save for future projects. So here we have our working fund. The working fund is like a cash flow. That helps us to keep the operations going while we collect our property taxation at the 4 due dates primarily. That's where we do see the cash injection. Then we have our winter maintenance. This here is basically a contingency to support any washouts or severe weather winter events where there's extensive snow removal. Insurance, we have a reserve here for any fluctuations for the general liability insurance, cyber insurance, legal, we've got 108,000 there. We've set aside 80,000 for computers, any future software purchases. And then we have it's just a group of smaller reserves for $100,000. Looking at reserve funds, and so these are specific types of reserves that are legally established for a particular use. They're created through formal resolutions or bylaws and are subject to regulations regarding their use and management. So reserve funds are broken into 2 categories. We have discretionary reserve funds and we have obligatory. So under the discretionary, our main source there is for core infrastructure, which is projected to be just over $6 million at the end of 2025. And that's the infrastructure there for roads infrastructure, for our landfill, waste management, replacing vehicles. So those initiatives there do require quite a bit of money. And the cash injection in those reserves there is through building for the asset management and for user fees. Under the obligatory reserve funds, we have deferred revenue from the building department of just over $600,000. And that is a result of having some very successful years turning those building permits into revenues. We have our Canada Community Build Fund that there we use for the roads infrastructure, small balance there. Then we have our cash in lieu of parking. Typically, we would draw from that to fund a portion of the bylaw budget. However, since we no longer have parking meters operational in the downtown core, we have not drawn from that reserve in 2020. Cash in lieu of parkland, that reserve there, we're going to actually draw on that reserve in 2025 to fund part of the steel footbridge at Lake Park. And then we have our perpetual care for $193,000 that there is in a trust account for perpetual care of our cemetery in the future. Safe Restart has come down substantially. It's at $75,000. We are drawing just over $197,000 to fund our softwares for the municipal operation efficiencies. And then we have specialized transit. This money here, every year we get some money from the Ministry of Transportation for our specialized bus, which is known as the DIMO bus, and that money is channeled into the reserve fund. And glad to say that we build this nest egg. So when we replace the DIMO bus, we can pay that through the reserve fund.
Is there a committee on that now? Who's managing that now?
There is no committee per se. But I think Mallory may be able to elaborate on that. Yeah.
We hire that done and we want to make sure that they're busy. You know,
So Murray, I can't hear you very well. Can you get closer to your mic and ask the question?
I'd even turn it on for you.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Okay, the DIMO bus, like who's tracking that? I know it's
So-
fine, we definitely need it, but I just.
Yeah,
want
so it's
sure-
all through my position right now. If it continues to expand, we'll look into that. But all the applications, I wrote that policy this, I guess, yeah, it was this year to make sure we were compliant with accessibility. In terms of upgrading the bus and so on, like that, stuff like that, it doesn't go through me. That's not my area. But everything right now is tracked through the clerk's department.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we hire the bus company to do that, or somebody from the bus company?
That's correct. Yeah.
And who tells them
Alberta
when
Bus
to
Line.
go? Or do they have a schedule? That's what I'm concerned about, that somebody's in charge here.
Oh, you mean in terms of when they run?
Yeah,
Yeah, they have a set schedule of when they run, but I think they're pretty flexible too. Like sometimes someone might need to go to an appointment out of town and stuff like that. So, they work with local people as well.
and mostly Extendicare, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and there's some individuals too who need to go to out of town medical appointments and stuff like that. So,
Okay. Thanks,
yeah,
Mark.
no problem.
Okay, thank you. So our next topic is debt and debt repayment. So we're looking at our external debt here. We have existing external debt at the end of 2024 of just over 1.6 million. New debt that we're proposing is just over 4 million, 4.3 million. And again, that is to fund the two bridge projects. We have Redstone Brook, and we also have Barry's Bay Bridge, and we have the Sand Dome that's covered under the new debt. Internal debt, where we borrow from ourselves, is $1.3 million, and we're borrowing a portion from our working funds for the Irish Line pit we purchased about 6 years ago, and then the loan to the wastewater treatment plant when we repurchased that back in 2019. The annual repayment limit. Did you have a question?
Just a quick one. When the auditors come and they do that percentage where you're carrying your debt load for 2025, we've always had a very good number. Is that going to impact that significantly?
No, we're still within the annual repayment limit. We have quite a bit of leverage. When they calculate the annual repayment limit, they don't consider internal debt, just external debt. So in 2025, we can pay up to 3.1 million in debt repayment annually.
Hopefully never go there.
So we're actually going to be paying $805,000. That includes our internal repayments. So we're well within the limit. Yeah. So moving on to our expenditures, and our expenditures are broken down into two groups, one being capital and the other operating. Capital expenditures for 2025 are budgeted at $8.1 million. Operating expenditures will just be over $19 million. Total expenditures are $27,272,000. So I'll talk about each one of those expenditure categories. However, we'll just have a little bit of a recap on our asset management. We are going to be revisiting our plan in 2025. Every 5 years, we're obliged to review the plan and update it. Obviously, these numbers here are going back to 2021, but I can well imagine that we're going to be looking at a replacement value of well over $200 million for our assets. So in order to work towards that, we like to contribute a portion of the municipal levy annually to the reserve fund. I haven't put anything in the budget this year for an increase. I've done the regular amount from 2024. However, we should technically look at putting a little bit of a bump in there. Right now, if we were to follow the asset management plan between the 1.7% increase on growth and the 1.3% on new assessment, we're looking at well over $300,000. So I go back to my opening statement on where we're looking for 2024. If we consider that surplus there and we inject it into the reserves, then that would reciprocate this bump here. So I just wanted council to be aware of that. It may be a little bit of a shell game, but at the end of the day, we're still achieving the same result and being able to maintain a decent tax levy. So looking at the sewage treatment plant, again, the ERU is going to increase. It will now be $870 per ERU, and that's an 8.1% or 8.1% increase, and that's in line with the current asset management plan. Next slide, please. So looking at capital funding and our resources, we need to generate $8.1 million. And how we're going to do that is we're going to provide $1.4 million in municipal taxation. We're going to draw $1.5 million from municipal reserves. The Canada Community Build Fund will contribute $235,000. The Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund will contribute $247,000. Federal and provincial grants will contribute $249,000, and that the majority of that there is the Community Recreation and Sport Infrastructure Fund that we currently have an application in. And then again, we have our debt for $4.3 million, and this debt here is proposing to borrow from Infrastructure Ontario over 40 years at their prevailing rate. And the last time I checked, it's about 4.4%. Could drop, given recently the announcement this week with the Bank of Canada, where the rate has dropped again 50 basis points. And then we have donations of $35,000 for the rescue boat under the fire budget. This just gives a little bit of a graphical picture here. And again, note compared to 2024, debt is well ahead. And that's the $4.3 million. And then looking at municipal taxation, that's retracted from 2024. And that's a direct result of a $500,000 drop in roads construction. So contrary to the revenue, we're going to look at the expenditures now that comprise that $8.1 million. Roads construction is $1.7 million. Bridges is $3.4 million. Vehicles and equipment is just over $1.4 million, and that includes the delivery of 2 tandem trucks. We've been waiting for a while for those trucks, but hopefully they'll arrive in 2025. Buildings and facilities, $1.2 million, and the main driver there is the sand dome at the Waits Garage. We have $1 million in for that project.
Do you have anything in reserve for the sand dome? We didn't have it.
No.
Wow.
That project was not earmarked specifically. Waste management, we're looking at $100,000, and that's for the Harcourt transition at that facility there. And then we have recreation for $64,000, and that there is a portion of it is a wrap up of the ISIP grant that we received for the Rotary Beach rehabilitation, along with the cycle hub at the Caboose. So giving a visual on expenditures, again, the common theme is bridges is way ahead compared to 2024, that green line. Looking at roads construction, that's retracted. Buildings and facilities has increased, and waste management has increased for some of their projects there. So the next slide here considers all expenditures by department. So this is both capital and operating. So starting with general government, you'll notice that this is a little bit ahead of 2024. The main driver there is the projects that we have for our maintenance manager implementation, our asset management to improve operation efficiencies. Looking at protection, that there has increased. Policing costs have increased exponentially. Transportation, again, that there is a result of the increased capital projects. Now, I just wanted to touch on policing services. Next slide, please. The OPP had finally ratified their agreement for 2023 to 2026. And so now we're starting to see the ripple effects of that agreement, and there were substantial increases for OPP policing costs. So this year, we're looking at an increase of $443,000. That's comprised of a 2023 reconciliation of $126,000. And then we're looking at an additional 300,000 for the current services, current this year. So that is a substantial increase. And the province did recognize that. I think a lot of municipalities are in the same boat that we're in. That increase represents a 20.6% increase in policing costs in 1 year. So we've since learned through announcement with the province that they're going to provide funding for municipalities, small and rural municipalities, to help mitigate that. And there is an algorithm in that calculation. So I did go back and crunch the numbers, and I believe we're going to get about $365,000 to mitigate that $443,000, but we're still short about $80,000.
Excuse me,
for the
Barb,
year.
but, and that, it's a one-time, did you say that?
Yes,
right? It's a
it's a
one-time shot?
one-time.
So
So,
what's that gonna mean for next, what's
Yeah.
this gonna mean for next year then?
yeah, well, you're going to be looking at absorbing that $300,000 increase for 1 year into the municipal levy. And that's about just over 3% on a 2025. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So something for council to consider. I mean, we don't have to take 100% of the grant money in 1 year. Maybe you want to stage it over 2 years to smooth the tax increase. But again, that's something for council to consider. So wrapping up here, next slide, please. This here is just showing a percentage of where our tax dollars go by each department. And so we see here in Public Works, they take up the lion's share of the budget at 60%. When you add in the protection, and we think about policing, that's 77% of the municipal budget. So on that note, that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions before we invite the next manager to present their budget.
But Barb, I think you explained it pretty well.
Okay.
Everybody okay? Okay, good. So who's first?
So we'll bring the fire chief, Dan Chumley, in.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you, Dan.
Okay, wonderful. I'm sorry, there's been a noise going on. Our fire pages just went off, so. Okay, the presentation will be up for everyone to see, I guess. Okay,
Yep. Whenever you're ready, Dan.
okay, just getting myself where I can see it. All right, so, sorry, is someone sharing the screen that everyone there can see it, or are you all following on your own? Because I'm only seeing the council.
Lori will share it again in a second.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, we'll start with that. This is just a reminder that the fire department doesn't just do rescues, car accidents, medical, and stuff like that. Our mandate is actually to try and promote fire prevention by education. Let people know what they can do to help improve their safety, help avoid fires and stuff like that. So we get out to as many events as we possibly can over the course of the year. And so this is just one, and I share that in picture there just to remind everybody that. Go ahead, please. Thank you. That's fine. Capital expenditures, thank you very much to Barbara for alluding to the boat here, the fire rescue. The association has been looking at this and researching this for a little over a year now. It's been brought up that they feel we need to have a bigger boat in order to better service our water access only properties. We had a fire on Redstone Island a couple of years ago, and that's part of what spurred this on. Our boat is sufficient for medical calls and moving manpower and equipment back and forth. But we have the potential to be moving more equipment and possibly even taking our ATV across to some of these water access only properties. So that was the intent there, and we brought that forward, hoping for some assistance to make that purchase with the intent that the Fire Department Association will provide approximately half of the funding to do that, if that's okay. Next on the list there is the radio dispatching, which you're all aware of through a previous recommendation. That's just the actual numbers there. And what I'm looking for, the bunker gear extractor is actually a specialized washing machine, effectively, to help clean our regular firefighting gear that we wear, make sure it lasts longer, make sure we're not shipping it out as much, because currently we send it out fairly regularly to be professionally cleaned as well as inspected.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to the boat for a second here.
Certainly.
What about ice rescue? Because this is the kind of winter that we're going to see some of that.
Okay, so this would be irrelevant to ice rescue. We do have an actual inflatable boat here that we use specifically for ice water rescues.
Okay.
So that's convenient for us to get to locations. We actually use one of our SCBA air cylinders to inflate the boat, so it inflates in about 30 seconds. So while firefighters are donning their protective equipment, our dry suits, and getting the harnesses and stuff on, somebody else can be inflating this boat, so we're ready to go. And we are training with that as much as possible.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Okay. Next slide, please, Lori. So that's our current boat, so what you have there. So obviously I don't feel we can replace that boat. Remove that boat. It would have to be as a supplement for the new boat, because that one has a very low draft for some of our locations. Certainly we do servicing into Red Pine, and we have to go down through the river there. So there's spots where we would be requiring this boat still, but getting the extra equipment is the reason for purchasing the extra boat, so to speak. Okay, next please. So volunteer wages, this should be fairly comparable to last year, other than the potential for call volume increases, and that's something that Barbara works out for us, very luckily. She's very effective in her work. The training, these are ongoing training that we're offering every year. We're able to do within the county now, so with the help of the other 3 municipalities. So the NFPA 1001 is the basic firefighter level skills, which all of our firefighters require to do the services that we as a fire department offer within the municipality of Dysart. And that is something, all of these numbers there are referred to certification training levels that our firefighters will need to be trained to for as of the beginning of July of 2026. So the 1002 is our pump operators training. So that goes along with getting them a DZ license to drive the trucks and then operate them properly. 1021 and 1041 are both for our captains. There are training and management options for leadership, and those are required for our captains and senior officers. Ice water, we won't require having everybody train on that, but certainly we're working towards that as much as possible, because, as I said, we're volunteer on call. And so we want to make sure that we have as many people available, so the first people can get there at the hall, we can do an effective response to go and help somebody. And then mental health training specifically, just in general, mental health is a huge issue in the world today. So it's one of those things that we try and touch on probably every other year. And then try and get a specialty course or someone come in and speak on our behalf. And then in the opposite year, we're balancing that same wages out with our CPR and first aid recertification. And then the other parts to break that up is because we are teaching these courses locally, we are paying some of our senior firefighters to come and lead those instructions and training sessions. So, next slide, please. So this is just a basic rundown of our equipment. This is our 10-year full ensemble, the PPE, bunker suits, that's the gloves, flash hood, helmets, boots, that all works together. All of our firefighters are equipped with gear that is, ideally within the 10-year time frame. As we bring in new firefighters, sometimes there's a little bit of an overlap, but within the industry standards, they're not to be used for structural firefighting beyond a 10-year life cycle. So what we do is we try and replace approximately 4 every year, and that keeps our rotation head. We are actually right on in line, and that's working very well for us at the moment. Firefighting foam agent, we try to use that sparingly, but that's helps us sort of smother fuel fires. It can help us seep water in underneath maybe steel from a roof when a house is collapsed. That's specifically what that's for. Miscellaneous items, unfortunately, rechargeable batteries and that kind of thing has gotten to be more expensive. The cylinder testing refers to hydrostatic testing that needs to be done on our SCBA cylinders approximately every 5 years. So we have about, I believe it's about 50 cylinders. So there's 5 to 10 going out on any given year, depending on when they were purchased. And then the request for the fire hose here, we're looking for an increased supplement to allow us to get a little further when we're laying out hose supply relay from truck to truck. So this fall, we were able to run a scenario and we set up water at the dam by Emerson's, and we run water all the way up the top of the hill to Echo Hills. And it was a little bit of a challenge this year. We had to do some adapters and use some smaller hoses to make the final distance. So we would like to get some of this, the 4 or 5 inch diameter hose, just to make that a little bit easier to make that setup right up to the top of the hill. Next, please. So they're just, I provided their picture there. The bunker gear that was mentioned, that full ensemble, you can see there's jacket, pants, boots, helmet, that all works together. As the full ensemble, there's a drag rescue device in there to help rescue our firefighters. And then those need to be sent out. And again, with the extractor I mentioned, every time we have a fire, 4 or 5 sets at the minimum get sent out for professional cleaning. And once a year, all of the sets need to get out for an annual inspection and cleaning. So if we could actually cut back on that by washing them locally and only sending them out when they need repairs or the actual annual inspection, I'm hoping to save some money with the, pardon me, that's my phone going off, my sorry. Save a bit of money with the shipping the Purolator cost getting back, and also keeping the suits on site, because it's a 3 or 4 day turnaround. We send them out often Tuesday morning and have them back by Friday, which is excellent for the service. But that's still a couple of days where that gear is out of the area. Next, please. So this is just basic costs going up, updating. As you can see, it's just things to be done around the hall. I think that's fairly straightforward. The door inspections refers to the garage doors. Luckily, they were serviced this year and everything seems to be in pretty good shape, but they do need to be checked. Building fire inspections, that helps alleviate some costs for different things that need to happen around here, and a little bit for us going out to some of the other buildings. Brooms, paints, shovels, that's just small equipment to help keep our exits cleared. Thank you for the Parks Department that they do clear kind of across the front of the doors first thing in the morning, and then the roads takes the snow out for the rest of it, but we still need to clear our back exits and that kind of stuff. Next. And so this back into our equipment again. So our PPE, the annual cleaning inspection, there's the costs involved, so that going out. The fit test machine, the second line there, that's an annual service on the machine itself, and that's actually shared amongst the 4 municipalities. So this is our turn to send it out and have it calibrated properly. And so that will show up approximately every 4 years as the other 3 municipalities take their turn. And then the others just standard, straightforward. These are annual inspections, so this is no real change in any cost from year to year, other than a gradual increase due to costs, cost of living allowance, sort of things. Next, please. So there's the actual our fit test machine. So you can see it has the hose and stuff like that. We actually attach them right to our face mask. And that's the full instrument that needs to be set out and recalibrated that I just mentioned. Next. Computer support. So these numbers are provided through the finance department. These are costs for the actual computer programs we use. Fire Pro specifically, I'm into almost on a daily basis. The Who's Responding app is what we're using for more communications. It provides mapping. We're using that for pre-planning. So we've been using it for a couple of years. Both of those we've been using for a couple of years, and we're getting really onto making better use of that all the time. And then the online training, the pre-emergency, that provides us with the options for more of the specific stuff, our local policies, as well as any of the municipalities' policies. So reviewing WMIS and AODA instructions. And so those are all used by the fire department, and those fees are, again, probably comparable to last year's, and will continue to be that way. Next. So this is for our contract for our fire service provision. The Highlands East covers basically the area of Harcourt for us as a first response kind of aspect. If they're going to be there for more than an hour or a couple hours to structure fire, then we will go out there. But because of travel time, we are paying for them to cover that area for us, and they are out fairly regularly, which also cuts back on our call volume right here locally. Next. So these are service contracts, same sort of idea. The MNRF covers certain areas for us that are harder for us to get to, areas that are more remote. Basically, the municipality, fire department services all the properties we can that we can actually get trucks to. And then radio services, this allows us to have our conversations provide safety with the fire department. So thank you very much to former Chief Isles, who actually upgraded that system not too long ago. We are having a much better reliability as far as making conversation for the firefighter safety when we're up in areas such as Percy Lake or up at Kinesis. Next, so we're touching on Lindsay CAC call dispatching. So that number will be down from last year because we are estimating with the intent of trying to reach out with Smiths Falls Fire Dispatch Services, that we can potentially about halfway through the year maybe switch over to the Smiths Falls if that all goes in line. I am in negotiations and discussions with them, and they are actually working on increasing their staffing, which has been a delay here because they're trying to make sure they can service more fire departments in a professional manner. Next, please. The emergency management training exercise, that's our annual requirement. We have costs involved in that are comparable to last year, I believe. Fire master plan, that is the continuation of the fire master plan that was budgeted over the 2 years. That's the remainder that will be balanced out over in 2025. And we are in, I was actually had them here this week, and so that is proceeding, and hopefully we'll have that for presentation early in the new year. Next, please. Vehicle repairs and maintenance, you see the cost here has increased. I have been advised by a mechanic that the safeties have changed through the Ministry of Transportation. However that works, they are actually supervising the safeties on all vehicle safeties, as I understand it. And they will look in on the mechanic and maybe direct them to do certain things throughout it. And so there's an anticipated increase in the cost and time involved in having those done. So I've tried to have that incorporated into these, unfortunately. But that is the way it's going to be. This year, we were able to have the safeties done before this new system had taken place. And otherwise, we tried to base this on previous year's costs. So the rest of it hopefully isn't changing, and maybe even decreasing because of maintenance. Next, please. So there's just a picture of a new board that the association has purchased here. Take a bit of a pride in ownership, but that's the names of all the current members with a thank you very much for all your support for the things you do for us. And that's all I have. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to see what I can do to answer.
Well, how important the fire service is for our community, Dan, and thank you for the presentation. If there's any questions? No, I think you did a good job explaining it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Now we can
Good
go
luck
to
with
fire, right?
Yeah. Well, they come back. Luckily, it was just an
Oh, there
alarm.
you go. Okay.
Yes. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so our next presenter is the Chief Building Official, Carl.
Carl?
Good morning, council.
Morning.
Yeah, so with building and bylaw, we're just going to focus on the changes over 2024. Our budgets are fairly simple. We do not have any capital expenses this year. So we're just going to focus on the changes from 2024. So starting with the building department, we have an increase, our building fees increase January 1st, 2025 from 90 cents a square foot to $1 a square foot. That was a change that we implemented last February or March. So our septic permit revenue is expected to increase in 2025 because we are now into, we've just completed the Area 3 orders and we're moving into the Area 4 orders, and that's the Halliburton proper area, which includes Head Lake, Drag Lake, where we did over 1,000 properties. So we've estimated that there's going to be about 250 to 275 orders that we're going to need to issue because we haven't had any resolutions to the issues that we found so far. So we're going to expect quite a few septic permits issued in that year. We also have our septic maintenance inspection revenue. We're expecting that to decrease. I might have jumped the gun with this one. We're in Harcourt Park this year, or sorry, in 2025. And initial review is we're going to have about 450 properties that have not completed the third-party inspections so far. So we've expected that most properties would have completed the third-party inspections, but we still have about 450 properties that we need to inspect from initial review of Harcourt Park. So I might have jumped the gun to indicate that might decrease. It might actually increase this year over last year, but we'll wait and see what the final numbers are on that one. Next slide, please. So with the expenses, we do have so the STR inspection. So because we're going to be doing STR inspections starting 2025, we basically have half of a building inspector salary being allocated under bylaw. So it's actually going to decrease our wage under building, but increase the wage under bylaw. We also have, starting 2025, we do have the 2024 building code taking effect, which has numerous changes. There's going to be a lot of training dealing with that, as well as continued training for staff to try and achieve more qualifications. So that's going to take some time and effort. We are going to be holding some training in-house locally that we're going to invite the other municipalities to partake in. But there's going to be training that might need to be done basically in Woodbridge, where the main OBOA office is. Next slide. So with bylaw enforcement, we have revenue. So revenue changes we have. So our parking meter and associated parking ticket revenue has been basically diminished. However, we do have new forms of revenue. We have new form of revenue into the admin penalties and order reviews to the tune of about $75,000 a year. So the majority of these orders are going to be building code related, mostly associated with the septic maintenance program. However, our bylaw staff monitors compliance with these orders. So once an order date comes up for passes, it moves over to bylaw, they follow up. So when they follow up, there are fees for them following up that they invoice the property owner for. So that's a new revenue stream that we've introduced this year, as well as short-term rentals. So that's a new revenue stream this year where we've roughly about $250,000 a year revenue that we're anticipating for that. That's accounts for about 500 short-term rentals in Dysart.
I'd be really surprised, Carl, if we ever get anywhere close to that myself.
Well, it's interesting. So we've issued about 50 so far, and review of the of those numbers, the ones that are being advertised currently right now during the winter, there's about another 250 that that have not registered, and that's just winter, the ones that are advertising over the winter. So I'd expect that there'd be more operating over the summer, so we might be very close to that number. But
Oh, I hope
again,
so.
time will tell what we get. So with that, we do have uh, so the STR revenue that's going to be coming in. So bylaw is going to be the ones in charge of processing and reviewing compliance with the STRs. We have other departments that are involved as well. So building department is involved with inspections. We have finance that is involved in taking the revenue and so they're all allocated into this this revenue stream that that's being taken in. Next slide. So expenses. So we do have so our third party contract, so Granicus, we're capturing them under computer equipment support, and it was previously last in 2024 it was captured under contract services consulting. We felt that computer equipment support was a better avenue to track this because it is essentially their portal where that we're going to be using, that staff or that applicants and staff are going to be using. So it's all under their software, their portal. So we do have memberships, so that's going to increase slightly this year because we're going to involve Ontario Association of Property Standards Officers for training. Basically, the cost of the membership more than offsets the difference in training cost if you're not a member. So we're going to include that as training or as memberships. Then we also have staff training, so we do have a replacement officer in place. So there's more training for that replacement officer. And that basically concludes building and bylaw budget. Any questions?
So you anticipate a lot of smaller permits then, but you put the rate up a little bit, so.
Yeah, so yeah, we are increasing the permit fee this year, so that might offset it. And again, if it was just a dip in 2024, you know, if we were in a valley in 2024, that might bump back up in 2025. We're not sure. It's you're using a dartboard trying to figure these numbers out. You can only
Sure.
capture, you can only guess.
Yeah. I think it's pretty clear. Okay, any questions from council? No, I think you did a good job, Carl. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good.
Okay, so we'll bring our next presenter in if there are no other questions for Carl.
No, there were not.
Okay, yeah, so we'll bring in Kate Butler at the museum.
Okay, museum then. A bit of a sinkhole, isn't it?
Hello, how's everyone doing? Can you hear me?
Morning, Kate. Yep, we can.
Hello. Okay. All righty. So yeah, just quickly to talk a little bit about the museum's budget for 2025. Just start off with a little bit of history because, well, that's what we do, right? So the Haliburton Highlands Museum, as many of you already know, I'm sure, we were founded as a Canadian Centennial project. So we have actually been telling museum stories, telling local history stories since the 1960s. So we first opened in October of 1968. So we have altogether, we have 6 buildings in Glebe Park, 5 of which are buildings which date back to the 19th century. So you can see here, we've got our main building, which has seen a couple of changes since that picture was taken. And also on the right-hand side, Reed House, which has been part of the museum since the museum's founding, even before our main gallery space was built and officially opened. Well, it was officially opened in 1980. So we can have the next slide, please. So just a little bit about the museum, just a few mentions of some of the things that we do. Of course, we're about community history, keeping our community's history safe and showcasing it for local residents, for visitors, and really, in many ways, the museum, it's one of those sort of crossroads places where local residents, summer residents, and visitors can all come together to share in our community's stories. It's that sense of connection and that sense of belonging. Through a lot of our programming as well, we offer people the opportunities to learn new skills in the community. Sometimes those new skills are old skills though, but they're coming back around again. There's been all kinds of studies done talking about the impact that museum and art gallery visits have on health and well-being. There are studies being done about the fact that you can get prescriptions now to in some parts of the world to visit museums and art galleries. That's the value that we're seeing in these sorts of locations. One of the things that we also love is that community identity is a big part of what the museum provides. And as I said, for year-round and seasonal residents, all of those different stories and all of those different generations as well. And one of the other things that we love is the fact that the museum is a place for different generations to interact and find spots to connect. That's one of the things I have to admit I love is hearing some of the stories that get shared in the museum across generations, and the different generations find a new understanding of each other. And then through a lot of the other work that we do, it's a way to share our community story more widely. Whether it be through social media, whether it be through our local media, we have people we've connected with the globe over. And when people come and visit the museum, they take their stories of Haliburton, of Dysart, back to their own home communities as well, and talk about what a great community we have. So many great stories. So just a little bit of what we do. Next slide, please. So just to mention a few things in terms of museum revenue, 2025, admissions. The museum is admission by donation. That's extremely important to us because that means that the museum is accessible to everyone. Whatever your financial circumstances may be, you can come and visit the museum. We never want it to be a barrier for people to come and connect with our local history and with our local stories. But we do collect donations, so admissions, donations, so that's additional donations that may come in, book sales through our gift shop, and then each year we also get an operating grant, the Community Museum's operating grant, the CMOG, which sits at $16,224, and that has been pretty much a constant for many years now. So we'll assume that that's still the same. Next slide. So just to mention a few items in terms of expenses. I mean, this is very much the status quo, the sorts of things that we usually be looking at year over year. So wages and benefits for staff, programming and events, exhibit building and conservation and care for the collection, advertising, cleaning of our building. We have great cleaners who do a fabulous job there. Computer programs and support, staff training. So that's that can be everything from the first aid training that we take on a regular basis to other conferences, other courses that keep us connected with the wider museum community. Essential utilities. So that's about keeping the the heat going and the lights on and all that good stuff. And then insurance as well. So the municipalities provided us with those figures. Next slide. All right, so this is where things are a little bit different, and I just want to mention this to council. So we're actually looking at two large maintenance repair projects for 2025, which I have to say are going to come with a fair price tag. So a couple of years back now, we were advised about some work that needed to be completed on Reed House, which is the 1882 village home, which was the museum's original home. It is very much a symbol of the museum and has been associated with the museum all the way through its history. So we had some issues with a bit of damp around the building. We were advised to cut down some trees around the building, and we did. We've also we've done some work in the basement to ensure that that issue has been dealt with. We also, though, we knew that we needed either a new chimney for the building, because the one that is currently on there is crumbling, to be quite honest. But we talked about, can we just take the chimney out, because we don't actually use the stove there. Can we just take it out, cap it, and then that will be a good solution for that. So we've been trying to get that work done for the last little while. We have subsequently, though, been advised that Reed House does need a new roof. So I know Rob Parrish has been doing all kinds of work there, trying to get things organized. We had hoped, because we had money in the 2024 budget, we'd hoped that work could start this year. But one of the things that we found, Rob has mentioned this to me, he's actually had trouble, from what I understand, getting enough quotes because of the cost of the project. I think he's made great headway there, but it's just meant that it hasn't been able to get started this year. So we're hoping to carry forward the funds that were allocated for 2024, but then to add to them for the roof replacement in 2025. So the figure that has been quoted to us was to replace the roof of Reed House was 36,000, and then also that would deal with the chimney and the rest of any other issues as well in terms of Reed House. So, and that is one big project. The other is the barn, which is part of the museum's historic farmstead. It also is in need of a new roof. In the last several years, the roof has continued to degrade to the point that the roof has holes in it now. It's an old cedar shake roof, which has gone beyond the lifespan we could have expected for it. It has done a great job, but yeah, it is at the end of its life, and it needs to be replaced. So I mean, that barn actually originally belonged to the Stothert family. It was from William Stothert's farm. So the barn dates back to either the late 1860s or about 1870. And the barn was reassembled. It was taken apart and put back together again, reassembled in Glebe Park in 1985. A whole team worked on reassembling it. So that actually means the barn, in terms of the time since it's moved, it's coming up on its 40th birthday of it having been moved. But yes, it is in need of a new roof, and really replacing the roof. I mean, that preserves the rest of the building as well. And if we don't replace the roof, then that is going to have an impact on the rest of the building. And also, and it is an exhibition space for the museum as well. So that does also impact the items that are stored in the barn. And that part of our property tells the story of that early European settlement in Dysart, in the Haliburton area. And the story of many of those early settlers who came with plans to pursue agriculture, and discovered that it was going to be much more of a challenge than they'd ever thought it was going to be. It was the early days before the lumbering industry had fully taken off, but people were trying their best, and that part of our property is really a tribute to those early settlers. and some of the struggles that they face. So we have we have to take care of those buildings as well. So in terms of the barn roof replacement, we are open to the possibility of putting a metal roof on the barn. Now it's not, fortunately, that's not 100% historically accurate. We would love a cedar shake roof, but if it has to be a metal roof to keep costs down, that's that we're willing to work with that to to keep the integrity of the whole building. But we're looking at the quote that we've received so far would be about $20,000 to replace that barn roof. So that's all from me.
Did I miss, what was the payroll for the museum right now?
So in terms of staffing, we have 2 full-time staff, plus we also have someone who does a casual, usually 7 hours a week, just to help fill in the gaps, to ensure that we can do all of our opening hours, and also to help cover, if our full-time staff have to be away for whatever reason, if they're off sick or are using holiday time or anything like that.
Do you have those numbers, Barb? Yes.
For the museum.
Yes.
So total staffing costs in the museum for 2025, benefits and wages is 179,500. It's actually it's comparable to 2024. Yeah.
So we're actually, I guess what you're asking for is like a $60,000 increase in the budget. Is that correct? Or is there some money put away in for the Reed House already? Sorry, of part of that 37,000?
Yes, so and there was 15,000 allotted in the 2024 budget. So we're hoping to be able to carry that forward.
And so just to clarify, the total museum projects of $36,000 being the Reed House roof and the barn roof. We do have that also $15,000 that will be drawn from the reserves, from the project carryover reserves. So the net impact on the levy will be $21,000 for those 2 projects.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kate.
Thanks very much. Take care.
Murray, is it possible to take a quick break?
If you really need one. Okay.
Yeah,
10
thank you.
minutes. Whenever we're ready, we'll carry on.
Okay, we're ready for our next presenter.
Okay.
Director of Planning and Land Information, Jeff Piles.
Hello and thank you. I'll just start by saying if you have any questions during the presentation, let me know. My presentation has been simplified, but for the most part, it is similar to previous years. I'm going to touch on revenues, expenses, and then just at the end, I'll provide an overall budget summary and comparison. Next slide, please. One more slide, please. So this chart shows the trends in the volume of planning applications going back to 2020, and it also shows the 3-year average of planning applications received. As you can see, the volume is fairly consistent from year to year with a slight upward trend. The volume of applications, and I've said this before, is not something staff can directly control, nor is it easy to predict, but it's something. My approach is to take a conservative approach and use a 3-year average when projecting my numbers. There's certain instances where projections will be inflated or decreased based on circumstances and experience. For instance, this year, due to the implementation of the short-term rental bylaw, I'm expecting an increase in road closing applications, license of occupation applications, as well as minor variance applications. But overall, I'm expecting a modest increase in applications for 2025. Next slide, please. Thank you. This chart highlights the trend in annual revenues received from planning applications. There is a correlation, so similar to the volume of applications, there is a slight upward trend for revenues as well. I am forecasting a modest increase in revenues for 2025. Next slide, please. In terms of expenses, they are similar from year to year. GIS, legal, and consulting are typically our largest expenses. It is proposed for this year to carry forward the unused consulting budget from 2024, so that will remove the impact on the 2025 operating budget. Other expenses relate to training and development, committee of adjustment per diems, and a new plotter is proposed for 2025.
Let's go back to the committee of adjustment there. How much are they being paid now, Jeff?
100 per meeting. That does not include the council members sitting on the committee. So 3 members, $100 each per meeting.
And the fees we're charging for the committee of adjustment, they haven't been moved for a long time, I don't think.
That's correct. And there has been discussion. So through the service delivery review, it was recommended that the planning department fees across all the lower tiers be the same. So we have been talking behind the scenes, and it's anticipated that we are going to increase the minor variance fee early in the 2025 year.
You know, I'd like to see it go to $1,000 and $1,500.
Yeah, they are a lot more complex these days. There's no easy property to develop anymore, and most properties do have a compliance issue that has to be dealt with. So yeah, we're looking at our fees. We're going to look at our fees across the board due to those reasons. If that's all, next slide, please. And before getting to the summary, so earlier this week, council did request a quote to support the potential development of a municipal property on County Road 21. I just wanted to advise council that I've yet to receive these quotes, so I will need to report back on that matter. But moving on to the summary, this is my last slide. 2024 was a slow year for applications. Having said that, overall, 2024, I believe, is on pace to come in just under budget. Looking ahead to 2025, I'm proposing a net planning increase of about 1.8%, which is approximately $8,600. So that ends my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
When you're looking at those fee structure, make sure you look at compliance letters. That's pretty, I don't know how we do what we do for $100 or whatever it is.
Yes, thank you. We will look at them across the board.
Your Honor. I think, Jeff, even though your numbers are down a little bit, all of the applications are much more labor intensive. So, you know, less application, but more man hours in sorting them out, right?
Mhm. Yeah, it is. We put in a lot more time per application than we used to.
Look at the one we had this morning, how much time we put on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
correct. And there's a lot of similar applications. There's just I've been here a while, and there used to be a lot of easy applications. For the most part, they're fairly rare these days.
Well, you're almost the same as last year then.
Yeah, we're going up just over $8,600.
Any questions for Deb? Yeah. So you're thinking halfway through the year we'd increase them?
No, we're hoping to do that sooner than later.
Oh,
I
that's
was trying
good.
to get it to the December meeting, and now it's looking like the February meeting likely. When we have to do our notices and everything, it's probably going to be February before I even table a proposal to council, and then it'll have to be implemented after that.
Okay. So as soon as we can do it then.
As soon as possible, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, guess you're good.
All right, thank you.
Forward report, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew? Where will I find you in this this paper?
So our next presenters are Andrew and Andrea
Right.
for Parks and Recreation.
So that includes the arena?
Yes. All right, so some of the, next slide, please, Lori. There's one here. And you need the next slide? Yes, please. So some of our responsibilities in the Parks and Rec Department include maintaining the public beaches and boat launches, playground safety inspections, cleaning of portable washrooms and the Welcome Center washrooms, garbage removal in the downtown core and all parks, winter snow removal from municipally owned buildings, and winter snow removal from designated pathways, creating and facilitating recreation programs, special events, so coordination, planning, and management, assisting with grant applications and funding, management and operation of the Halliburton Welcome Center, management and operations of the arena, maintaining municipally owned buildings, which there's quite a few, and water testing at all municipally owned buildings. Next slide, please. So if you take a look at this map, it gives you an idea of where everything's spread out in the county. There's quite a few locations, 120 spots that need garbage removal in the summer, when there's no snow on the ground. It reduces at this time of the year. Just shows you where all the washrooms are, where the snow removal takes place. We have 28 boat launches that are maintained. There's 7 public beaches, so there's quite a bit within the Parks Department. And as you can see, it goes one of the boat launches is all the way up at Quagama. The other ones are over in Harcourt, so a big area.
Right. Now, the arena budget for this year, from the 2025 reserves, $10,000 for the Zamboni 10-year replacement. It's on its 7th year right now. Arena truck, $5,000 a year, 10-year replacement. We're on our 6th year. The arena requests this year, a new ice edger for the Zamboni, $6,335. We want to insulate the lobby wall between the ice rink and the lobby, as the warmth in the lobby in the wintertime melts a little bit of ice inside on the rink. So we just want to insulate that for $7,500. Tables and chairs for the arena lobby are needed for accessible viewing, so that's $3,500.
If you just look at the picture here, that just shows some of the work from the funding that was, from the money we received last year, that's some of the work that was completed in 2024.
Next slide. Or that one, yeah. Good. Yeah, that's our new water softener system that we put in last year. It's a reverse osmosis, and it gets rid of all the fine particles and just makes our ice that much clearer and better to play in.
Next slide, please. So this just highlights all the areas where water, building maintenance and water testing locations. The water testing has increased every 2 weeks. Rob has to go out and test the solenoids and the UV filters. It used to be a monthly task, but now it's been, he's been mandated, I guess, by the health unit to do that bi-weekly, as well as once a year, each of these buildings that are listed have to have annual water flushing and cleaning of the lines or the system. So those are some added things that have happened over the past year and that are now in place that traditionally didn't have to happen as often or as frequently in the past.
Slide. So this is municipal parks and building capital. The Canoe FM, the furnace replacement and air conditioning replacement for $19,500. Boat launch refurbishment, Drag Lake boat launch off Fred Jones Road, $20,000 to replace the dock and refurbish the boat launch.
Looked at the canoe rental, like they're not in bad shape, I don't think. If we're losing money, and we are quite a bit. I'd like to contribute to them, but don't think we should be losing money.
Or the canoe, yeah. It's our building, yeah.
So maybe we could look at that.
Yeah. So water system replacement, $16,000 for the town hall, medical center and museum. Now this is mandatory from the health unit, and it'll have to be done within the next 2 years. Samson privy, $10,000. The old privy that's there is deteriorated. And the next one is replace piers at government docks. The government docks are getting old and wore down. I don't think personally they're gonna last too much longer, so this is something we're gonna have to consider over the next couple of years.
We're not asking for it in this year's
No.
budget, but we're just bringing it.
Okay.
Bring that to your attention.
Warning.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
And electronic sign on Highland Street near the Welcome Center, $20,000.
So this is just showing you, last year there was $20,000 in the budget to replace the Red Pine boat launch, which was in dire need of repair. So it's showing you the before and the after pictures. So now people, it's much more accessible. It has a dock, a crib. So this is showing you what that boat launch repair.
Quite an improvement.
Yeah.
And park staff did all of it.
Next slide.
The municipal maintenance plan 2025, the medical center, our water system, $8,450 must be completed within the next 2 years. Harcourt Community Center, Privy Holden Tank, pump outs, $1,000. Arena, camera for the arena security, exterior corners and parking lot, $5,000. Replace the emergency exit door by the manager's office, $5,000. Replace kick plate board around the ice surface, $3,910. The West Guilford Community Center, fire exit panic bar, $1,000. Head Lake Park, rescind the timbers at the band shell, $1,000 carryover from last year. And falconry and goose control pigeons, $10,000.
What kind of a door are we putting on the office there for $5,000?
For the arena, the emergency exit door, the one where the water
Where-
fill up station.
Oh, okay.
Other parts, boat launch repairs, general maintenance, $5,000. Portable holding tank pumping, 4,700. Playground maintenance, $5,000.
And then as far as staffing goes, there's Andrew and myself. We have Mike Smith, the arena supervisor, our maintenance and facilities operator, Rob Parrish, 3 full-time parks laborers, 4 full-time arena operators, and 1 seasonal arena operator. Next slide, please. And then at the Halliburton Welcome Center, we have 1 full-time staff member and 3 to 5 casual. So usually it bumps up to 4 in the summer, but 3 the remainder of the year, and the casual staff fill the
Weekends, right.
on, yeah, this time of the year. And then in the summer, weekends and some extra dates, early evenings when we have other programs going on. Our visitor count continues to increase. We have, if you look at the numbers from January to October of 2023 to the numbers of January to October of 2024, we've gone up almost another 1,000 people. So that's over 2,000 people, over 2,000 people since 2022. So it's, we're only counting the people that come through the door. We have no idea
How many?
use the washrooms outside, but I know there's a lot because just of going through
Yeah.
toilet paper, et cetera, and people coming in saying, is the washroom open? So there's lots of use of the exterior washrooms.
What are we involved with a bicycle rack? That's Rotaries, is it not?
That's Rotaries, yes.
So we're not obligated to do anything there.
No, they take care of all the maintenance of
Okay.
it. They take care of everything. The only thing we have is some information. So if somebody's having difficulty accessing the app, and quite often what it is they're using the American app versus the Canadian app, we can just point them in the right direction. If there's an issue with a bike, we call Mike Landry from the Rotary Club and he comes and deals with it. So our staff don't have really anything to
No,
do with
that's
it
good.
other
They
than
should.
providing information.
Okay,
So-
I'm really upset where that got put. Like it's got the caboose. We can't do anything with the caboose.
Well,
And, we should be making money out of the caboose.
well, and I think Pamela's using it this year for a seed grant
No, but
with
that's not-
the, I know it's
Not gonna make any money. out of
it won't make any money, no, but there's that this
Yeah.
year and then, yeah.
Well, I had an idea that we put Kawartha Dairy ice cream in there and we would make some money.
Mhm.
And use the thing. It's just, it needs painted,
Oh, and actually Pamela, through her seed grant, they are looking at painting the exterior of the
oh,
building.
well, that's a good thing.
Yes, so that should happen, and they're going to bring it back to its original bright orange that it was many years ago. So that's something that you'll see happen, and they're going to fix some of the wood on the exterior of the building.
Yeah, okay.
So
Okay, well, that's good if they do that.
definitely,
That makes me feel better about that grant.
yeah. And with that grant, I'm going to work with Pamela too to do some kids bike safety programs in the park and everything. We're
Yeah, I
gonna work
know.
together on that. So with recreation programs and events, ball, hockey, our soccer again at capacity. We're looking to expand it to a couple of nights this year. Having a Tuesday and a Thursday or a Wednesday, Thursday, because we have demand from older kids, but we don't have the capacity with the fields to be able to expand that or to expand in terms of a bit higher level. So we're talking about looking at one evening, which is a bit for the older kids and one evening for the younger kids, or one evening that's more just a higher level versus strictly recreation. We've also talked to Algonquin Highlands about having an end of the year get together with where teams from their soccer league play teams from our soccer league one day, and just to create a bit more of an atmosphere.
Good.
We have women's only soccer, which has been doing really well. Then there's things like the Jolly Jog, March break programs, summer programs, lots of public skating opportunities. Last year, we introduced the Highlands Summer Track and Field program. It's received really well, and that will be taking place again this year. And that's a revenue neutral or a slight increase in revenue, but not much. Programming with school groups. We have line dancing at the arena, and then a new one this year, which I brought up at the last council meeting, celebrating the holidays in Dysart at all, which is a Find the Gnome thing, Color Fest and Fun in February, which receives quite a bit of attention. So that's that.
Good. Any questions? Walt and Nancy.
Yeah, the arena, is there a lot of hours, certain times of the day that are consistently like nothing going on downtime? Like,
Depends on the time of year. Summertime, absolutely not. There's zero time.
zero, it's full in the summertime?
It's full
Except for Saturdays.
Except for Saturday.
Okay. And what do we charge to rent the ice for an hour? Like say I wanted to rent the ice for an hour and just go out in the ice and help some kids, whatever.
It depends on the time of the year. So at this time of the year, if you're renting from 4 p.m. or later, or on a weekend, you're looking at $116.40 an hour. During the day, it's $79.55. We will be bringing a fee increase proposal forward for the draft budget, or not the draft budget, the fee bylaw in the new year, so that there's an increase to the September to April ice rates, starting in 2026, or sorry, starting September 1st, 2025. And then in the summer, it's $220 an hour, regardless of the time of day, to rent the ice per hour.
And what's the status of our contract now with the hockey school?
So actually, you're going to see that come forward on the council agenda. So Troy's already told me that he's ready to go, same number of hours as last year, which I had that number written down somewhere. It's over 300. It's around 380 hours of ice that he uses. But his contract, the one that was set out years ago, did expire. So we're bringing forward a new contract to council. And in that contract, it said he had the option to renew for another 5 years. So you'll see that on the January.
Yeah,
council
and
agenda.
we'll see how we do with Barb here with how we're making out with the cost versus hydro and labor and all those things.
And the cost right now, just last year at the arena, roughly just for the summer ice, there was around $114,620 in summer ice revenues. So that's, I don't know what the hydro
What the
costs were.
expenses were,
Yeah.
yeah.
And this summer, we anticipate a few more rentals. I've already had more inquiries for larger chunks of ice time in the evening hour. Evening is always popular, but I've had some people who are trying to.
I'm not trying to be negative, but I know you lost a pretty large, I don't want to mention the name, but some who ran a school or something.
We're not, that we haven't lost them yet. If they do go to Minden, that's okay, but we have people that are waiting to take that spot, so.
And one last question. I don't have the gentleman's name right now, but maybe you know this, I think he's contacted you. He wants to rent this ice for his aunt or somebody who teaches power skating.
Mhm.
Do you know that for the person I'm talking about? And
I
they want a lower rate.
He hasn't asked me about, no, there's somebody who, so they've rented the ice from us last year and they've requested again this year. They want the same rate for the one program they're doing. They were asking about if we would consider a lower rate if it's, say, you're teaching the class and Carm wants to take a private lesson. If there's a last minute or a cheaper ice rate, I guess they do that in like Pelham and different areas. So
Okay.
that's what they were looking at.
So you're aware of that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Thanks for thank you.
You're welcome.
Nancy?
I just wondered through Andrew, is there any opportunity for you and your busy builders to look at the roof on the Reed House at the museum? It's been perpetually going on and on and on, so I just didn't know if that was something that was within the scope of your department, or if you have more contacts out there.
Yeah. With our department, it's not really a scope because there's a lot more training involved with the working on the heights and all that stuff there. It is something Parks Department could do, but there would be some training and a lot of organizing to do.
Or perhaps help get
But they
some
can definitely
quotes
help
and
them.
put out the scope of work in
Yeah.
a proposal somewhere.
Yeah, there's more we can do there, and we'll have to reach out to more contractors as well to get a better price, I believe.
Any more questions? Oh, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, so our next presenter is the Manager of Environment, John Watson.
John Watson.
Good morning, Council. I'm excited to be presenting the 2025 proposed budget for environmental management. So if we can go to the next slide, and then the next slide. As Council is aware, in terms of the waste management, environmental management programs that we have in Dysart, we have no curbside collection in our community. So all of our ratepayers are dependent on 5 landfills or depots. We have no waste scale at any of those sites currently. At 2 of the sites, Harcourt and West Bay, we don't have any electricity. West Bay landfill currently has no cell reception, but that will be changing with the new cell tower being installed. We're completely transferring garbage out of Haliburton, Kinesis Lake, West Bay, and West Guildford landfill. And Harcourt landfill, we are currently landfilling on site, but that will be changing come 2025. Next slide, please. Just to bring you up to date with some highlights from this current year, 2024, we held a number of waste diversion events, including the New to You Community Yard Sale in July. The Household Hazardous Waste Days, we hosted 3 in Dysart, but ratepayers or residents could attend 13 events in total across the entire county of Haliburton. And then we had the inaugural Great Haliburton Clothing Swap. Some initiatives that we implemented this past year included the new outdoor battery recycling collection bin. We were the 2nd municipality in all of Ontario to do so, and that bin is located on York Street outside of the Rails End Gallery. We now accept lighting year-round at Haliburton, Harcourt, and West Guildford landfill for recycling. We also delivered in-person recycling workshops at the Rotary Summerfest, Search Community Services Repair Cafe to all of the students at Stuart Baker Elementary School and recently at Silver Beach for one of their environmental committees. And Dysart received a Gold Promotion Education Award for our Recycling is Easy public awareness campaign from the Municipal Waste Association. Next slide. For 2025, in terms of our budget, we have $1,012,000 budgeted for total revenue. You can see a breakdown of how that revenue is generated from the sale of landfill cards, composters, digesters, the sale of the scrap metal that we collect at our sites, disposal fees, program fees from our extended producer responsibility programs like Blue Box, electronics, hazardous waste, and lighting, and then $100,000 contributions from reserves. Next slide. The expenses for 2025 are budgeted at $2,749,000. Of that, the breakdown includes wages, hauling and processing, landfilling, household hazardous waste days, and there's a breakdown of some of those different contracts for garbage hauling and processing, construction and demolition waste hauling and processing, the household hazardous waste days, and bird mitigation, which we'll talk about in a little bit. There's environmental monitoring, reporting, and studies, and then our operating expenses, equipment rentals, utilities, etc. Next slide. In 2025, we have a number of exciting initiatives that were proposed and excited to be instigating. The first one will be falconry. This is a use of a bird of prey from a local trained falconer to deter gulls, pigeons, and other birds from our busiest waste disposal sites. The use of falconry is a standard practice in the waste management sector. In the previous municipality I worked in, we actually had a full-time falconer at our site that worked 5 days a week. We are proposing to have a falconer primarily in the busy months during the summer at Haliburton and West Guildford landfill, totaling $20,000. The benefit of having a falconer on site is that the use of the bird of prey deters those nuisance birds from visiting the site. That reduces litter, reduces messes on site, and definitely enhances the public perception of how that site is being used by the public. Next slide.
Just a question there, John. When you're talking to falconry, where do they send them? When they scare them out of there, I think they come to town. And then we have to hire them again to chase them out of town.
Because those 2 landfills, Haliburton and West Guildford, does have a large forested area around it. Ideally, those birds are going into the forest, but again, we can't control if they are headed into town. Town can support it as well through falconry initiatives and making sure the business improvement area is working to deter goals, including not leaving food out on some of the rooftops.
Okay.
Another initiative is landfill identification cards. They need to be reissued in 2025. So we are working in partnership with Algonquin Highlands, Minden Hills, and the county to develop a new landfill card that would be digitally based. There would still be a physical card available for those who don't want the digital version, but this will give us enhanced metrics about our site operations and could link to the eventual scale system that we'd be installing. Harcourt Landfill, this is a major project that we'll be undertaking in 2026. The application is currently underway with the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks to amend the ECA, the Environmental Compliance Approval, to permit the hauling out of garbage. And that's because we're basically running out of landfill capacity at that site. So Harcourt Landfill will need to be reconfigured to make more drop-off bins accessible and available, and to specifically to add the drop-off bins for household garbage. So in the budget, we have $100,000 specifically for the site configuration, and then we've budgeted approximately $40,000 for the hauling and processing of the garbage that would be generated from that site once the transfer station is up and running. Another initiative planned for 2025 is a waste audit or waste composition study of the construction and demolition waste we receive. In this, we would hire a professional waste auditor to assess the construction and demolition waste arriving at Haliburton Landfill to better understand the makeup of the materials and waste diversion opportunities. At the moment, most of that C&D, construction and demolition waste, is being landfilled because it is not separated. So doing this waste audit will give us a better understanding of what types of material, wood, drywall, porcelain, concrete we're receiving, and how we could maybe divert those materials away from landfill. And there's been $20,000 budgeted for that project. Next initiative, and this is just to remind that we are going through a major change in the waste management sector, particularly around our blue box system. So the province instituted a new blue box regulation, and the blue box program started changing in July 1st of 2023. Dysart Council executed an agreement with Circular Materials, which is the producer responsibility organization that oversees the residential blue box program. Dysart transitioned to the new program on January 1st of 2024, so we've almost had a complete year. Ratepayers did not see any changes during this transition period, but the hauling and processing of blue box materials is covered by Circular Materials. The entire province will be on the new program come January 1st, 2026, and the list of acceptable blue box materials will be standardized across the entire province at that time. So it'll be this exact same acceptable materials in Toronto, Dysart, Thunder Bay, everywhere in the province. The one thing, and I just want to remind council, is starting January 1st, 2026, eligible, which is primarily residential, and non-eligible sources of blue box materials cannot be mixed together. And a non-eligible source of blue box materials is recycling generated from commercial properties, nonprofit organizations, municipal facilities like town hall or the arena. So in 2025, Dysart Council will need to decide if it will provide blue box drop-off services to non-eligible sources, at which sites, and how that program will be funded. So I'm just, again, giving advance notice to council that a decision will need to be made in 2025. We're currently working with the other lower tier municipalities on a request for expressions of interest to see which haulers or processors would be available to handle that quantity of material, which is relatively speaking quite low in terms of the quantity, and what that pricing could look like, so council can make a more informed decision in 2025 for implementation in 2026. That's the end of my presentation. Is there any questions?
Maybe it's not related to the budget, but how serious is the injury or the problem with the backhoe at Haliburton?
The backhoe is being repaired by the roads department. Obviously, with the amount of snow we've had, roads had other priorities at the moment. So it is slated to be repaired as soon as possible, and will be back in operation to help with the daily operations at that site.
Okay.
I got a question, Rick.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The garbage that's hauled out of here and the C&D waste that's hauled out of here. Can you give me the path where its final destination ends up, and how many trucks go out of here a month or a year?
Yeah, so
And how many tons?
yes, so the garbage and the construction and demolition waste material go to different locations. The garbage material that we collect from our sites first goes to Aurelia, to a transfer station, and then from there it is taken to a landfill in the Windsor area called Twin Creeks Landfill, which has a lot of environmental controls that we do not have in our own landfills. The construction and demolition waste material that is collected from our sites is taken to a landfill in Niagara called Walkers, and it's landfilled there. I don't have the number of trips that we make, but in terms of the tonnage from 2023, so from last year's tonnage, we had 1,924 metric tons of garbage and 4,056 metric tons of construction and demolition waste.
Could you please give me those tonnages again? I'm sorry.
1,924 metric tons of garbage, 4,056 metric tons of construction and demolition waste.
Yeah, so the C&D waste goes again to what area? Missed that, sorry.
It goes to a landfill in Niagara.
Okay, thank you.
So there's no funding or nothing in the budget for the proposed work at the Halliburton landfill site?
We have money for our environmental consultant to be able to proceed with doing the budgeting and some initial drawings for what the new redesign would look like. It would be the 2026 budget that would absorb the capital cost for that work. So the work on redesigning landfill would not actually happen until 2026.
We got a little bit of money in reserve for the scales, I see.
Correct. Yes, we've been allocating money every year to do so.
Yeah, okay. Okay,
Okay, thanks, John.
thanks, John.
Thank you.
So our next presenter is Director of Public Works, Rob Camelot.
Can you hear me okay, Mayor?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor and members of council. So on the first slide, you can see that the 2025 proposed transportation budget is very capital heavy, composing about 60% of our budget. So that will be basically some bridge work, some vehicles and equipment, and a proposed sand storage facility. Next slide, please. So this is how we're looking to fund these projects, roughly between taxation, reserves, fees and grants, and debt as well. So notably, as Barbara had spoken to, we are proposing over $4 million in debenture for 2025. Next slide, please. So this one I think has garnered some more conversation. Initially, I had proposed to put $100,000 in to put some roadside barrier on the Koshlong Lake Bridge, given that we tendered it last year and it came in excessively over budget. So my train of thought was, it's there, it's working, it's taking full highway loading. Let's put some barrier on it and walk away from it for a few years. So perhaps maybe some grants become available, because right now it is taking the full requirements of highway loading, and we do have other bridges to look at. So I know there's been some other conversations and questions, maybe revisiting the Koshlong project and maybe doing some consultation with Highlands East to do a full road closure. So we take the temporary bridge out of the equation, and that would significantly reduce costs. However, there would be costs associated with a detour from the other end of Koshlong Lake Road in conjunction with the neighboring municipality. So I don't know, Mayor, if we wanted to maybe deal with that right now before we move on, or do you want to circle back to that at the end?
It's mostly for their taxpayers, so they should help us with the road for sure.
So should we, is it council's wish that we pursue kind of a second kick at this and propose a different scope of work to include a detour, full road closure and replacement of the structure?
Yeah, do it once. And then
We won't have initial costs, you know, certainly anytime soon. We're gonna have to do a deeper dive on it. But I think it's something we're gonna have to collaborate with Highlands East on and maybe come up with some budget numbers for council's consideration.
maybe that's next year or the year after.
Okay.
Yeah, we should pursue, look at that road and see what's needed there. And also the, whatever you need to do to make the bridge safe. One that's there now.
So I guess moving forward, we'll leave the 100,000 in there in the 2025 capital through debenture for barrier, absent any plans to replace it in 2025 or 2026.
Okay. That sound right? Nothing wrong with it. It's just one lane, that's all. Yeah.
It just change. So yeah, the two other highway bridges we're looking at are Redstone Brook Bridge on Green Lake Road and Barry's Bridge on Barry Line Road. They are adjacent to each other, Barry Line being immediately upstream of Redstone Brook Bridge. So we're proposing to bundle those two projects and they'd be able to be replaced in 2025 with full road closures because there are detours available. The last one, of course, is the Head Lake Bridge, steel footbridge replacement that was discussed earlier this year with council. So that is in the hands of consulting engineers to prepare the tender. I expect it will be released in January or February for 2025 replacement.
Okay.
Next slide, please. So for vehicles and equipment, we have 2 tandem trucks. Again, you've seen these two listed for a couple of years now. We ordered them in 2022. I can tell you the cabin chassis are in Ontario. They just have to get the plow equipment put on them. We are expecting delivery of those in July or August of this year. So it would be nice to get those ones off the books. A 1-ton truck and plow, the cabin chassis was pre-approved by council. It has been ordered, although there will be a delay on that truck. It's our understanding from the vendor that there's a delay at the factory now for ordering these vehicles. So we're not sure when it's going to get ordered, but the order has been placed from our end. The backhoe loader, so this was requested last year as well. It was deferred at the time. So this would replace the backhoe at the Halliburton landfill, which is going on 24 years now. So we would take the backhoe from the Rhodes garage, which is 7 years old. It would go to Halliburton landfill. We would sell that old backhoe, and the proceeds of that would go back into the reserve. And the last one there is a front end loader mounted snow blower, and that would be to replace our existing unit, which is a 2009 model. So it's at end of life. It's just actually starting to deteriorate before our eyes. So although they don't get a lot of engine hours on them, they're hard hours, moving all that snow all winter. So yeah, that's what we're putting in for equipment and vehicles for 2025. Next slide, please. So road rehabilitation. So this is what we're proposing. These roads, Redkin, Watts, Mountain Street, Ilman, and Irish Line. The top 3 are all at end of life. They were identified through the asset management plan for replacement. Ilman Road and Irish Line were identified by the last term of council to be upgraded to a surface treatment. They were surface treated once upon a time, but because of maintenance costs, they were pulverized about 10 years ago. So basically we added a bit of gravel and regraded it a few times a year. And now they're scheduled to be upgraded again to.
Could we have a discussion on that? I heard this morning that there's one area that floods or does some, probably should have some work done on it. And I'm not sure, that's pretty flat road.
Which road is that?
Which one are you talking about?
Irish Line.
Irish Line. Yeah, there's still some drainage works that need to be done. We've been chipping away at that through maintenance money in the last few years. But yeah, there's still, I'm thinking 2 culverts that need to be replaced still. So.
And I guess that brings up the other conversation, Rob. If we go to the better surface treatment, then we're going to be short money to do the roads we thought, right?
Well, the plan is to release Irish Line as part of the surface treatment tender as a provisional item. And then I want to issue a separate contract for the recycled asphalt. And if it comes in too high, we'll cancel that and add Irish Line back to surface treatment.
Okay, does somebody want to comment on this now? This is your roads and your ward, so.
Yeah, like, Rob, we all looked at the road at Bitter Lake there, or I know a few of us have anyway, and it looked really, really good. So, and I've asked you this question before, but what's the difference in cost then between the two types of surface treatments there?
So what we're proposing here, although it says cold laid asphalt, it would be a different mix. It's using recycled asphalt that we got off the Highway 118 job when the ministry went through. So it's going to be a different product. It should be a cheaper price than the asphalt we laid this year, but I did intend to nail down these prices for you, but I'm guessing there's about 35% increase, the asphalt over surface treatment. But the hope is you get that cost savings back over the life cycle of the asphalt. So you'll pay higher upfront, but you should have the product for longer life. Unfortunately, we won't know that until the roads age. So we're going into year 3 of our first test strip of cold laid asphalt. So probably in the next couple of years, you're going to have a pretty good idea of how it's going to perform.
So Rob, just, I see you got Redken down here and Watts. What exactly are you gonna do there? Cause I get this call every day.
It'll be pulverized. We'll add some granulars. We'll do some ditching. We'll grade it up and put double surface treatment back down. So this section of Redken, we've addressed a part of it since I've been here, but from the county road into base camp hasn't been touched since I've been here. And the section on Watts Road was completed roughly when I came. So it's been down for 12 to 13 years. It doesn't owe us anything. The problem is through there is the base is horrendous. So I don't think it matters what we put down on Watts. You're not going to get a 15 or 20 year life out of it. So we just have to be reserved to the fact that every 10 to 12 or 13 years, we're going to be going up there and redoing the road.
Okay, thanks, Rob.
Your Honor?
Nancy?
Rob, on the Mountain Street, once you go past the Parrish line, there's some really significant areas that are low-lying and are frequently flooded at certain times of the years. Is there any kind of maintenance work that we can do there and then plan to do actual road rehabilitation in next year's budget, perhaps?
Well, water overtopping the road, sometimes that's out of our control. So that's generally related to beaver dams not under our control or on our property. But I know prior to me arriving here, they did raise that road south of Parrish Line quite a bit when my predecessor was here. So they've alleviated some of it. And unfortunately, that's the only way to really deal with some of these issues is to raise the road. But raising roads through swamp sections can lead to other issues too. You could just overload the sub base there and have some other type of failure. But it's not that we don't know the issues are there. We're very limited in what we can do to rectify them.
And so for just, putting gravel down and grading and stuff, does that come under the maintenance budget? Because there's one area on Hutchings Road and Moon Road. Actually, there's not a piece of gravel left on Moon Road. So would that go under a maintenance budget or does that have to?
Under operations, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a couple of questions. The coming into town, that last layer we put on, it's I think you and I talked about this, Rob. It's coming up in places and it just looks tired, and it is the main approach to the town and creates quite a bad impression. So can that be patched, or what do you do with that when you get these sections that it comes up, or what do you do with it?
Yeah, you can patch what's there. The problem is it's not going to quit delaminating, as you see. We notice patches every spring. It's just going to keep happening. It's a progressive degradation of the surface. So probably in 2026, 2027, we're going to be in a position to make application for reconstruction of the connecting link from the fire hall out to Gardens Retirement. And it may be a good opportunity to loop that other section into the same contract or maybe the year after. And then you can, you'll get some savings on mobilization and some material pricing and that kind of thing.
We wait till 2027.
Well, it was done 5 years ago, I think, and I was hoping to get 7 years out of it at then. So I mean, we're nearing the time for sure, but it's going to take some engineering money too to figure out how to fix that road properly, because we have to do some grade adjustments too to get the water off the road.
Okay, and then of course, the other thing that we need to do is some work in town with these paving stones. And like you and I had to talk, that's not going to be simple, but it's pretty, we can't just leave it. It's a heck of a looking mess. And
Yeah, the concern I have with that, and the paving stones are a mess, there's no doubt about that. The concern I have is a lot of the curb adjacent to it and some of the sidewalk bays are a mess as well. So how far do you really take it? Because if you take the boulevard out and replace that, you're likely going to damage the curb and you're likely going to further damage the sidewalk bays. So if council wishes, we can take a closer look at it, because it's going to cost significant money to do a proper replacement there, because you're going to have to do some alternate access for the buildings along there as well. So it's not going to be a quick fix. And I don't think it's worthwhile just to do the boulevards. I think you have to look at right from edge of pavement right to the back of the property line.
Well, I know one thing, it's not a very, I don't find it a very impressive town when you come in, when you see, the stones are all chipped and the curbs chipped and there's holes on the road coming in. I don't know. I'd leave something else and I'd do the town, because that's what people expect. Tourists, that's what they expect to see, is come into a nice town. And this is not a nice vibe right now, in my opinion, but that's just me. Yeah.
Rob, going into our landfill site in Halliburton, it seems every time that I go in there, it's like, pothole and bigger pothole. Is there any way that we could get on top of that like early, instead of letting it get so bad? Like it's like going through a minefield of, your cars bouncing around. And so it just seems to me that there's a backhoe that used to be there, but hopefully it's gonna be back soon. But I just wish that there was a consistent, the guys could, when they drive in early in the morning, get on that right away, because it's really tough on the cars coming in there, like, and trucks coming in. It is some big potholes there consistently.
Absolutely. We have big potholes on our roads as well. I mean, the advantage we have on our roads is they have somewhat of a base, although it's not great, but the base of the landfill is literally garbage. There's not a lot of granular there to work with in the first place. So once you blend the winter sand and everything into it, you don't really have a fighting chance to eliminate potholes. I mean, the only way to do it is grade it once a day and cross your fingers, quite honestly.
Stone.
What about some stone down on it?
3/8 or something, or a half inch. I don't know. I don't know anything about that. Barry does.
It's almost a daily thing, but which is fine. I mean, you just have to, if you're gonna have the backhoe sitting there, I think you should have a couple loads of material there, whether it be 5/8 minus or a 2-inch minus or whatever it is. And you just pretty much daily have to put a bucket or two here and there. I don't think it's that, it's not rocket science to do that, and that's really the only way you can do it, because I agree with Rob, it's on garbage, so it's going to keep doing it. There's no question about it, but maybe just have to stay on top of it a little bit quicker. And like Walt says, is, every day, take a bucket or two, fill those potholes in, level them out. You have to do it the next day, you have to do it.
Let's go back to that surface treatment that's coming into town. Can you put another layer on top of that?
You could. I don't think it's money well spent. As I say, the surface that's there now is going to continue to delaminate. So it's gonna come up and it's gonna take the surface on top of it with it. Time's just ticking on it. That's all.
So I guess if you peel that up, you just have the other old pavement under it, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to peel it up. You'd have to bring a milling machine in. So, which I mean has its own issues.
think we should ever use that again? What do you think?
It has its applications. I don't think that was the proper one.
No, I agree with you. Okay,
Can I ask a question about the bridge? The footbridge, how long is it? And did you quote for the arch in it, or is it going to be a different one?
No, it's gonna be a straight grade in order to meet accessibility. So you can't use arch bridges anymore.
Okay, and how long is it?
It's about 60 feet, I believe.
60?
60, yeah.
Thanks.
are we still doing that double wide or?
Yes.
But we haven't got the grant.
Not yet.
No.
Can I also ask about the sand dome? What kind of material or construction is a sand dome and how big is it?
So the one, and this is very, very high level at this point, and my apologies, it was supposed to make the next slide and for whatever reason it didn't. It's in the detail, it's not on the slides. It's about 70 feet wide and 100 feet long, I believe. It needs to hold 15,000 tons of winter sand. You can either do a prefab concrete block on the wall and then do a steel truss with a fabric on top, or you can do a poured wall. There's different options to it. I did put $1 million in there, not knowing where we can actually site the sand dome. We do have some property restrictions at the Rhodes Garage. We may have some buildings in the way. So there may be some costs associated with building relocation or tearing down. What I do want to say to council is the money I have in there, that's the upset limit of what I'm asking to deal with our sand storage issue. The current situation we have is the sand is stored open air, so it gets rained on, gets snowed on, all that good stuff. So when there's ice chunks that start to form, which is right around now, they were talking about it this morning on the radio, is they have to screen the sand through our grizzly and then it falls directly into the truck. The grizzly we have now, I don't know when it was built. I'm assuming it was built around the same time that the Rhodes Garage was, so it's going on 50 years. It's done very well for the age of it. It does not meet current safety standards. There's no guard railing or anything to that effect. I had an engineer look at it last year. We can still use it. They told me to start looking at replacement. So one of those replacements could be a covered sand dome, which would eliminate the need for a grizzly. We could replace the grizzly that's there now, which I'm guessing is going to be significantly less, probably around the area of $250,000 to remove and replace what's there. We could also put screens in the back of the dump trucks. You're looking at about $100,000 for that option. My concern there is every time we do a snow removal, we have to take the screens out, put them back in. Takes a lot of time, increases the risk of injury or damage to something else. So really, although I'm asking for a sand dome, I'm asking for direction to do something different or improve what we have out there now, either spending this much money, or this much money. Ultimately, if it's funded through debenture, it's going to be at least a 40-year life cycle on the sand dome. It is the preferred option, but I understand if council wants to explore the other two as well.
It was 70 by what?
70 by about 110 feet.
Thanks.
And how much sand was in there?
We need to store 15,000 ton to make sure we have enough. We use anywhere between 11 and 13,000 tons every year.
And how tall does it have to be?
At the peak of the steel truss, I believe it is 60 feet. They're kind of designed for the larger trucks to be dumping in there and not hitting the steel truss.
And 60 feet?
About 60 feet. Again, this is very high level. I've only spoken to one company on this, so I didn't want to take it too much further until we got consensus on this.
Okay, thanks.
Way too much big for your horses. That sound about the size we need though. Yeah.
So basically, if we were to proceed down this route, we would be seeking a building like that, a fabric roof. The fabric's good for 20 to 25 years is what I'm told. So although the rest of the building will be okay and it'll be sound still, every, say, 25 years, you're gonna have to replace the fabric on the outside.
Hey, Rob, what do you anticipate on your difference in cost to fill the building versus what you're doing right now, say?
Not sure I understand, sorry.
So you're gonna have to put the sand in the building, right?
Yep.
So what do you think, would there be an extra cost to put that sand in the building compared to the way it's set up now?
No,
Or-
it would be a little easier now because
Easier?
right now, stacking it up in the open air, we require a 100-foot conveyor. And there's not a lot of them out there. There's a few more now than there used to be. But with these covered buildings, an 80-foot conveyor is all you need to really put the material in, so.
So your process there to get it in, but just basically the same, other than you.
Be the same process, yeah.
Okay.
When will you be starting to, I guess we got to approve it, of course, but when would you be trying to get this started, Rob?
I could start some background work next week if it was approved today, kind of thing. Say that the background work's only a small piece of it. We gotta cite it first and see what has to move and where it actually can go in relation to lot lines.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm totally in support of that plan. If you want to start your homework on that, then what do you guys think?
I guess.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. Yeah, start looking into it for sure. Yep.
I agree.
Thank you.
Is that everything for Rob? No? He's got the sewage, yes, hasn't he?
I got a few more slides on transportation here too. Can we jump ahead a few actually to the maintenance, please? So overall, we're looking at about 4.7% on transportation. Say as a lot of the capital is funded through debt, it doesn't really impact that a whole lot. I just did want to show between the summer maintenance and the winter maintenance that everything is pretty well, it's not flatline, but there's very little deviation between the two. If we can go to the next slide on the winter maintenance, there's quite an increase in the winter sand for 2025. So what I'm planning there is we just finished clearing the Carroll Road pit. So it's been cleared, it's been stripped, it's been grubbed, it's ready to manufacture winter sand. The idea now is once it's stripped now, we should go in there, let's screen everything or crush everything that's in there down to winter sand and have it sitting there. So let's do a big contract in 2025. I'm guessing there's 30 to 40,000 tons in there that could be processed. We pull anywhere from 10 to 12 out every year. So if we have everything on the ground, we could just go in there every fall, pull out what we need, build the dome if we have one, and not worry about screening for the next few years. So in order to do that, we are proposing to fund the overage from the reserve and just pay ourselves back over the next few years. So you will see a request from me later on this spring to put out a quite a large winter sand manufacturing contract to crush down everything we have and at least have it on the ground.
Everybody okay with that? Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, the intent after we exhaust Carroll Pit is to rehab it and close it, so we don't need to be in there anymore and move on to Kenaway Pit, do the same thing with it.
Rob, will this go around exhaust that pit up there then, the Carroll Road pit?
Yes.
It will
Yeah.
exhaust it, okay.
Okay, we're moving on here, Rob.
Yeah, and this is just to show how far we've come along in equipment rental rates. So in 2023, we adopted a bylaw to follow the ministry rental rates kind of mid-year. So 2024 was our first year with the full ministry rental rates. You can see the increase that it's led to, and that money is very much needed just to replace the fleet we have. Looks like we're largely on target for 2024, and it's going to be around the same revenue for 2025.
About a third, better than a third and a half, 50% increase, almost.
Yeah, we had some pretty significant gaps in the equipment funding.
You're gonna have a pretty nice bathroom for $30,000. Just saying.
That's to cover the unknowns. We're trying to renovate a 50-year-old building that has concrete floors, and we're not sure where the plumbing is. So.
Okay. I think we're good with that one, Rob. What's next here?
I think that's it for transportation.
Okay. Okay, move on then. Mhm. That's it? I thought we were gonna do the sewage, some of that. Oh, there was.
Put your mic on, Barbara, if you speak.
So I can speak to the wastewater treatment plant at a high level.
Well,
Um,
I'm just thinking we should be moving to get something started on that. We're gonna do it. Every month goes by here and nothing happens. If we're gonna do some engineering, we better get started.
Rob still want to talk to us?
Speaking of that, so Maria, I think we should get RFP put out for whatever we need to do. Get a look at whether we need new technology, current technology is sufficient. If we need a complete refurb, partial refurb, how many ERUs we expect to need versus what we need. Like, I think we need to get all this nailed down now. If we can do that.
Yeah. Well, we need to do something
Yes.
because we can't just
Yes.
sit now and for another 2 months. And
So how do we get this rolling? How do we gotta put a notice of motion in to get this started, or?
did we do, I forget what we passed with, did we give clear for permission to do the engineering? I thought we did at one point. Do you know, Rob, what we did?
Like, should it be an RFP, Murray? Should it just be Clearford, or what should we do?
Well, what I'm saying, I thought we did something way back 9 months ago or something. For them to go do some engineering, but I could be wrong.
I think in that aspect, we're kind of starting over. If that's a direction council wants to go, I would seek a new resolution.
So,
Could I comment, Murray?
yeah,
I think at the last meeting, we suggested that, or after the last meeting, just reviewing some things because Rob wasn't there. We had suggested perhaps as the department head overseeing this, that he could bring back a report to the January council that maybe outlines the difference between RFPing versus sole sourcing and timelines and costs and so forth. So council can evaluate which is the best way to go.
okay, I know we need to do that, but we're going to be January, then we're going to go out with an RFP.
Well, that's the reason for having that report, though, is to determine if you need to go for the RFP or not. So I think if Rob could provide that information to the January meeting, you guys will have a better idea of which is the best way to go without jeopardizing any opportunities moving forward.
We got to be ready for that grant. We're not going to get it.
In the last meeting, staff were directed to allocate funds in this budget to start moving forward too.
Yeah, on engineering.
Yeah, we are directed already on that regard.
Can I comment, please?
Yeah.
Like, Rob, why wouldn't we get started like tomorrow if they were available with Clearford and them to take this on, because like we're so far behind the 8 ball in time right now, and if we go for an RFP, like how long is that going to take? Where this is, they've been involved with this plant for how many years?
Oh, well over 2 decades.
Okay. And they like, I think they know what we want to do. Like, do they not?
I believe
There's
so,
different
yes.
things going on here, Walt. There's the engineering, which is one thing.
Yeah, well,
which they could do because they know.
well, that's what I
better than
mean.
anybody.
That's
But
that's
then we're going to have to go out for the work. That's when it should go public. And whoever gets the lowest.
So Marie, nothing gets Clearford, don't take this wrong, I'm not Pat saying this, this is
No.
just me. In my opinion, Clearford didn't represent us well with this last go around. Bringing these investors in, they didn't do their due diligence to look after us. That's my concern with giving it strictly to Clearford. Not saying that they shouldn't have it, they can't do a great job. I would just like a second opinion so that we're not in the same boat a year from now as we are right now, that's all.
Well, I agree with you, but I don't think it will be. The engineering will have to go out for a tender for the works. And if somebody else can do it better or cheaper, then they're gonna get the work. Clearford won't get the work.
And that's fine with me, as long as we get a second opinion in advance, not a year from now.
Yeah.
I think that's why we're a year behind here. We went out for a second opinion. And it's just been, we've been waiting and waiting, like between Clearford and Signia, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
That's two different entities right here in regard to, they had the money and Clearford was, gonna be doing the engineering and everything. So, I mean, you're not confident with Clearford and I've been around here for a while, maybe, not because you haven't been, but I think Clearford's done a very good job in representing Dysart. And it's unfortunate, that we're in the position we're in right now. But I think every day we don't get this ball moving, that we're really falling behind the eight ball. And we need a decision, especially if we're gonna get this money, Mallory, right or wrong.
Well, if we could say we started the engineering, I think that's a big thing for the grant.
So I guess so staff have been directed to budget for this. Do you want staff, I don't know why this is doing that.
Making a funny noise.
Do you want staff to come back with some recommendations though, to move forward with it? Is the question, because you haven't really heard from, we didn't have all of our staff available at the last meeting and stuff like that, and you didn't hear their perspective. Now, I understand wanting to get going, but we're not gonna build this over the Christmas holidays, so would it be appropriate to return to January with staff recommendation on how to proceed with engineering?
As long as we can make a decision in January, we don't go five weeks again.
Oh, if we have to force a vote, we have to force a vote.
And unless Rob's able to tell you right now enough information as to why, but I think he probably needs some time to put some thought into it.
Would you be able to provide that information in our January 10th budget meeting? Like, could that be added to at the end of the day agenda, just for the report per se, and then we can, yeah, and then by the council date, we could move something forward.
Rob, it is a budget item too, at the end of the day, how much we might end up spending on it. So do you agree with that, Barbara? In terms of adding more detail to the next budget presentation?
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually it'd be beneficial.
It would
if
be
we could
very
have
beneficial,
this,
but-
For our second meeting in January.
So as long as, like, that's a question to Rob too. He's the one who's gonna have to write details on it, but.
I will do my best.
Oh, it was off intentionally.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's it then, Barbara?
That concludes the department presentations, so council's encouraged to take away all the information.
Yeah.
And we do have a second meeting, the second Friday in January. I think it may be January the 10th. So if there are any recommendations or proposed changes, if you could communicate that back to me, and I can include that in the second draft. Yeah. Okay.
Do you want to comment on the Rails End or the cultural committee while we're here, or not? While it's in your mind fresh?
I know Pat's not here and I don't want to represent him without him
Oh,
being
no,
here.
because he's on the rails end, yeah.
Yeah, but well, and he's on Culture Resources, but he was in the last meeting, he was quite supportive of, because first of all, they have no impact on the levy, but he was supportive of the plan getting updated as well, because it means we can apply for grants and stuff if we have a current plan. And he contributed to the conversation on the
Okay, yeah,
sewage
and
wrap as well.
He'll be here next
He'll
time.
be here next time, yeah.
All right. So,
Your Honor, I totally support Rails End.
yeah,
You know, again, we haven't increased their rate for like
No.
16 years. It is our building. It's getting older. There's some
what's in the,
significant work.
what's in the budget? 50?
So the first draft budget includes an increase to $75,000, their ask, and also the $4,000 for the building condition assessment.
Okay. And the culture resources request is in the budget as well?
Yes, so what we've done is we have funds carried over from previous year cultural resource budgets, and we're able to fully fund the 2025 ask.
What about the museum, Barb? What's in for that one?
On the museum, the two capital projects there are both in the budget. The museum, the barn roof is in at 16,000, the Reed House is 20,000. And so we have 15,000 carryover on the Reed House roof, which means there's just an additional 5,000 in this budget. And then the full cost of the barn roof replacement, which is 16,000. So the net on the levy for those two capital projects is $21,000.
And
Yeah,
there's
it's
nothing
included.
for the trails or anything that, for the, yeah,
So Glebe Park, their budget there is pretty comparable to
Okay.
last year. Yeah.
I didn't realize that Dyert was contributing to the culture forest.
Yeah, it's a grant, yeah, an operating grant for $3,750, and we've been doing that now for a few years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that. Okay. Okay, so
Resolution. Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the first draft of the municipality of Dyersville 2025 budget.
mover and seconder. Nancy and Carm, all in favor? Carried. Confirming bylaw? Yeah,
Oh, your mic's off, Carm.
Mallory, I'd like to put a notice of motion in that we, with our new development down in 21, we either hire a designer or an architect, or whatever we need to maybe draw this out and give us some suggestions what we can and can't do and how we can do it, so we can, when somebody wants to come purchase it or where we go, we got an idea of roads and sewers and hydro, and so we're not just, well, we could get something nailed down with a design where we're
have a
going.
plan, get a
Have a
plan of
plan.
some kind.
I think we've been working on that to some extent in our staff committees with some members of council that we could maybe bring some information back, Carm, to the next.
That'd be just, if we had a map of what we kind of envisioned.
Yeah, there's a few different things going on, and part of that is the rezoning of the property that Jeff brought to the last meeting. To be able to determine what can go on it as well, but yeah, we can probably get you an update for that.
So Carm, in the minutes under budget, I'll direct that in the next presentation that there's information on that county road development. And then we can discuss it during the meeting.
And I did talk to Extendicare, and their designer has been on holidays for 3 weeks. He said they are still interested, but I think they're looking. They're looking at Martha Bear's property.
Okay, well, we'll bring back more information at the next meeting, eh?
It would be the regular meeting of council too, Mallory. I don't think it would be the budget meeting because it's. Jeff was looking at getting some quotes and costs for studies and stuff that he hasn't
Yeah,
got
I guess it
yet.
depends when we get those quotes in, right?
Yeah, so that's one piece, but I think the general discussion around the property is probably a regular budget or a regular council meeting.
Okay.
We can talk about that after though.
Okay, but it's coming soon, basically.
Yeah.
I see we got $30,000 in for that one study there in the parks and recreation. Is that going to do anything One
That's-
line to this property?
No, that's the carryover from the funds that were established for the Parks and Rec Master Plan, and we split it between 2 years.
Okay,
Can,
okay.
is Rob still available? I just had one question
Yeah.
about roads. Is he, sorry. Just wanted to check, because I know I brought this up before, but the winter maintenance, either between the county and Dysart or Highlands East. Because there's I mean, I see the trucks every time they come over, and we're kind of duplicating things there. I know I asked this before, but did you ever look into it to see what is possible, that the trucks don't have to be coming over, and because there's already trucks there, they're just Highlands East or the county?
Yeah, there was a report on this. I did look at it, and for whatever reason, I didn't download it, but there was a report to council on this. So the roads over there were done through contract. It was a private contractor. It was not a municipal contractor. So that contract was terminated or not renewed. So we ended up hiring somebody, purchasing a truck to go over that way. And the intent was that body would plow roads in the winter in Harcourt, and in the summer would do some landfill maintenance with the excavator, loading C&D and that kind of thing. So as I understand it, there was some conversations with Highlands East at the time, and they would be taking on the work, but in order to do that, they would also have to hire somebody as well as a truck. So the decision was made at Dysart, we would just do it ourselves. So I'll dig that report out for you and I'll send it to you, Counselor. But that's as far as it went, and I believe that was in 2020, perhaps.
Okay, that'd be great if you could pull that for me. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll do it now as I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
Okay, are we ready to go now?
Yeah.
Confirmation.
Be it resolved that bylaw number 2024-112, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special council meeting held on December 13th, 2024, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and the corporate seal attached thereto.
Mover and seconder. Nancy and Barry, all in favor? Carry. Adjourn.
Be it resolved that council adjourn its special meeting of council held on December 13th, 2024 at 12:17 p.m.
Mover and seconder, Walt and Tammy, all in favor? Carry. Thank you. Well, we can grab a